Good morning and welcome. I'm Jane Dolan. I'm the president of the board, so I'll be the one announcing things or not. Welcome to board members, current and leaving. All of you in the audience, all of you online, and to our staff and staff of other agencies. Happy to see you. Have you missed us? First up, I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm calling to order the Friday, January 26, 2024 meeting of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. So welcome to everyone. I'm going to ask our technical folks there or next to me, Jonah Knapp, if we've allowed everyone to be admitted. Okay, thank you. So the online folks are there. So first up is to establish a meeting quorum. And with that, I will call for the roll, which I believe is going to be by our, I don't know your title, our administrative help, Mr. Jonah Knapp. Old clerk sounds funny. So the roll, please.
Good morning. Board Member Bosler.
I'm here.
Board Member Johnson.
I'm here. Good morning.
Board Member Countryman. Board Member Griego.
Here.
Board Member Valines.
Here.
President Dolan.
I'm here. And that was Vice President Klein.
Yeah.
So we have 6 members, 6 board members present, and we have 1 vacancy. We do have a quorum. So we'll proceed. I'm going to ask our executive officer to give us the announcements. He's indicated that he has. After that, we will have our thank you and farewell to Board Member Ramirez. Mr. Leaf. Not yet.
It's on now.
Better.
Okay. We
Much
get
better.
the slides. So good morning, Chris Leaf, your executive officer. I have several announcements this morning. I have 4 staff departures to announce, 1 new employee to introduce, and 2 other announcements. And after that, we will recognize Tim Ramirez for his extraordinary service to the board in the state of California. I'm waiting for the slides to come up.
I did tell some folks who were actually not on the agenda, they couldn't have slides, but we'll get to.
I am on the agenda.
If we can find them. How are we doing back there? We actually like the meeting to roll on.
Okay, as we wait for the slides, I'll start with the departures. So there we go. All right, presentation mode. There we go. So first the departures. Crystal Montemayor has taken a promotional opportunity with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and her last day with the board was January 10th. Crystal has been an exceptional contributor, offering fantastic support for conference coordination, travel arrangements, purchasing services, and more. We're grateful for her dedication to the board, and you can reach out to Amber Wertnick with any questions or related needs in these areas. Is that better? Next, Cassandra Bikaki, who provides administrative support to the permitting section, will be leaving the board in February. Cassandra is very appreciated for her proactive nature, thoroughness, professionalism, and compassion when dealing with the public, and attentiveness to program requirements. Her personable nature and positive attitude had made her a beloved member of the team, and she will be greatly missed. Melissa Roberts, who is our point person on budget matters in the administrative division, will be leaving the board on February 2nd for a promotional opportunity at the California Wildlife Conservation Board. Melissa's steady demeanor, excellent listening skills, attention to details, and willingness to learn will serve her well in her new role. She will be missed here. And lastly, Deb Biswas, who is a water resource engineer in our permitting unit, is leaving the board at the end of the month for a promotional opportunity at DWR. We thank him for his significant contributions to the board's regulatory programs, particularly in the encroachment permitting program. We thank all four of them for their service to the board and wish them the best of luck in their future endeavors.
We do, we're sorry, frankly, we're sorry. They're excellent employees, so our congratulations to those who are taking them away from us. They're getting good folks. Yes, we can, thank you. You can talk whenever you want.
We do have a new employee to welcome to the board. We're excited to welcome Ian Jokaris as the newest member of the enforcement section.
Where is he?
Ian,
I said hello.
please stand.
Gotta stand, hello,
There you go.
hello. Oh, you look like your photo.
Might be the same shirt. Ian joined us on January 8th and is new to state service, coming from the private sector where he worked on structural design of various facilities. Ian holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Madison
Oh, wow.
and a master's degree in structural engineering from UC Davis. He currently holds his engineering training certificate and is looking to tackle the engineering examinations for his professional engineering license. Welcome to the board, Ian.
Welcome. Is that a top two? Okay. Okay, so some goodbyes and a hello.
Yes. And here's
Yeah.
the congratulations.
Is Jamie
so
Silva here?
Jamie is here. Jamie, please.
And you look like your photo.
Jamie Silva from the board's Environmental and Land Management Division has been chosen for the 2024 William R. Gianelli Water Leaders Cohort, the Water Foundation's highly competitive leadership program. The year-long program focuses on deepening water knowledge, enhancing individual leadership skills, and preparing participants to take an active cooperative approach to decision-making surrounding water resources issues. We know Jamie will represent us well in that cohort, and we wish him congratulations.
We're happy that you have received that and will be doing it. It's a great program. It's good to have our staff able to do that.
And another announcement is the public review period for the draft supplemental environmental impact statement, subsequent environmental impact report for the American River Common Features 2016 Flood Management Risk Management Project has been extended. Comments on the draft will now be accepted until February 23rd, 2024 at 5 p.m. To submit comments, please include ARCF SEIS/SEIR in the subject line. Written comments must be submitted by mail or email as shown on the slide. This information is also available on the board's website in the public notices tab.
Thank you for putting that information up because we have received information on it so far that may not have been sent to the right place for now.
Yep. I'll now turn it back to President Dolan to kick off our thanks for the many contributions and years of service to the board and the state by Tim Ramirez.
Thanks. We want to take this time to thank and to say farewell to board member Tim Ramirez, who made the decision not to seek reappointment. We're sorry for that. So as of December 31st, seems not quite, made the decision to do things with his family and with his other job. So we thank you, we honor you. Mr. Ramirez is, in our opinion, and what we all know and confirm, a true public servant. We're sorry to see him leaving, but he did serve well and with distinction and energy and smartness for 12 years. He's had many other experiences working throughout various entities and agencies within the state of California, including being the Assistant Secretary for Water Policy at the California Natural Resources Agency. So we're thrilled to have his knowledge and ability to be on the board. He was initially appointed by Governor Brown and reappointed by Governor Newsom. So we hope to keep in touch with him. His leadership on this board, beginning when we had the establishment of approving the first ever Central Valley Flood Protection Plan in the year 2012, was very instrumental in getting something through and accepted and appropriate for addressing the issues of the future, and not just for the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, but the conservation strategy and the effort to move forward in a multiple benefit way in improving our flood system. He's played an integral role in almost everything that we have done, along with just being a great board member. So I have before us, board members, a resolution of appreciation and acknowledging his contributions that we hopefully will adopt. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution? Resolution 2024-01, honoring board member Tim Ramirez. Moved by Bosler, seconded by Johnson. We can do a voice vote on this. All right, so we can move on to other things here. You want a roll call? Okay, everybody who says yes. Okay, so everybody says aye, okay. Anyone who doesn't wish to do this? I almost said no to make you stay, but we'll do that. All right, that motion carries, so that's great. I want to ask if any board members would, I do know there are members in the audience, so we'll get to that, but any board members that want to offer comments, then we'll ask the audience, and then we will bring Timmer forward for his resolution. Member Johnson.
Thank you. I'm not always good at these kinds of speeches, but I really want to express my own personal thanks and on behalf of the board. You're really the best kind of example of public service and the type of people that we always try to be and aspire to be, always showing up with integrity and pushing for good outcomes, fair and just outcomes, things that are good for the state of California, forward-looking, creative, and up to the challenges that we face, not being overly constrained by our history and the limitations of the past. And we're all, much for the better for it. And on a personal level, I certainly wouldn't be here but for your example. Not just that I asked you what you thought, when I was entertaining putting my name in, but also knowing that this is an agency that includes people like you as a type of agency that I might want to be a part of. And I'm going to miss the rides back and forth and the brainstorming partner. And we're happy for you going forward, and we're going to miss you a great deal. Thank you.
You're here. Anyone else? That was really nice. There are several who wish to talk, and I can see that. So any other board members at this point? Member Grable?
Yes, thank you. I just want to share with you my experience with working with Tim, and that is the passion that he has for what we do here. He's very passionate about the areas that he worked with the Delta, and and as for one passionate person to another, I really admire that and the commitment that you gave to this board. It's appreciated. Thank you for your service.
Board members, any others before we go to the audience? Okay, Vice President of the line, then Member Countryman.
Tim, for you, I'm gonna hit the button and actually talk into it. I love the word you used, admire. I admire you. I've enjoyed working with you on the board. And when I was in the legislature, I would have loved to have had somebody like you in the legislature too. You have the kind of personality. It's like problem solving, pull people together, never take things too serious. It doesn't mean you're goofing off, but you just have an ability to really make a room feel better and the board feel better and then still get into tough problems. So I absolutely love that. I think you're a great dad. I don't really know your family. I hope he's a good husband. We'll leave that for you to tell us. Yeah. Well, you get the mic too. I love how you spend time with your daughter skiing, you know, and I get such a kick out of the way you do that. So for me, it's not goodbye. I'll see you in Kirkwood somewhere, although I have to drive 2.5 hours to get to Kirkwood, but I would love to do that with you. And I just thank you for your public service. I did read the resolution. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff there and you still have a lot to do. So I know you have a normal day job that takes a lot to do too, but they're just lucky to have you. It's totally our loss. I'm glad that you're going to get some balance if that's what you're looking for. You never really told me, so I don't know why you're going, but I totally wish you and your family the best. And anything I could ever do, just call. Don't hesitate. I do look forward to getting out together and enjoying Mother Nature out there. And just it's been great to serve with you on this. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you. Member Countryman.
Well, I just love this idea of the public servant. You know, us engineers get a lot of criticism about just doing our numbers, not getting involved with the public, not participating in the conversations in the open arena of politics and so forth. And you're just a great example of how an informed engineer can make a real impact on his agencies and on this board. And I'm just proud to be able to have served with you. And I'm going to miss you personally because your dedication, hard work, and knowledge is just unsurpassed. So thank you, Tim.
Yes. Member Bosler.
Yes, I told Tim when I met him that his good reputation preceded him because while we've worked in the same orbits, we hadn't really had a chance to work together until this last year. And everything that all those folks said about you were absolutely true. You are a rare and just impressive lead by example person. And I really want to align myself with all the comments that Mike just said about really, being able to navigate these really challenging issues, emotional, but in a very calm and methodical way, and always with, the right compass. And we will miss you. I feel like the state is going to miss you because it's just really good having people like you working on these really tough and long-term problems that we need to have that consistent commitment to. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope our paths cross many times in the coming years. So.
Well, we still have your email. So do that. Here. I'm going to call on some folks who have let me know that they do wish to make comments. Then we'll come back to the board staff. So I'll call first on Clyde McDonald. Clyde, did you want to say something or did you already? I know how that goes. I'm sorry. Somebody poked you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Clyde McDonald. I sat on this board for 8 years and enjoyed every minute of it. And I enjoyed working with all of you. Didn't get to work with you, so that's great. Or Mary Jane. But I really enjoyed working with Tim. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed working on the board. I think there were a lot of problems that we worked on. And am I doing something wrong?
The mic's not on.
It's got a green light.
Oh, all right. All right. It's just,
Okay.
Well,
Anyway,
I can, well, but I wanna make sure.
I really liked his passion, and I really enjoyed that, and just working with everybody, and kind of it was a lot to negotiate moving with the Department of Water Resources and trying to work with the locals. And when we started out, there, the locals' initial attitude on the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan was no.
Yeah, it was.
And we worked that around to get it to be yes. So I enjoyed every minute of it. So thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Jeff Mount, did you want to say something? I'm shocked.
I've never met a microphone I didn't like.
Good morning.
Board members, I don't know all of you. I was on your predecessor, and it was Tim Ramirez more than 20 years ago who roped me into becoming part of that board, which I enjoyed very much, and to the day I was fired by Arnold Schwarzenegger with enthusiasm. Yes, I was terminated by the Terminator. So this is my way of thanking Tim so many years ago for allowing me the opportunity to get a great non-academic instruction in how it works. People like Bill Edgar and Betsy Marchand gave me a tutorial in how it all works. So I want to thank Tim for that personally. But the other time, I'm representing the Public Policy Institute of California here this morning. Ellen Hannock couldn't be here. She's got a life in the Bay Area. But both of us want to thank, as an institution and individuals, thank Tim Ramirez all these years for his input and his willingness to show up when we needed somebody to say something smart about flood control. So Tim, and biology and all the rest of it. So Tim, thank you from PPI, from the heart of PPIC, and then finally, as your friend of what, 3 decades now? Thanks for all your public service.
Thank you. Darren Soon not only wishes to make a comment, but to revisit us. Nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Valines, member of the board. I am so pleased to be here to see all of you and all these familiar faces again, but it brings me a great honor to, not joy, but great honor to be here on behalf of former board member Ramirez. I can just call you Tim now, if that's okay. As a former staff, I think I speak for all the staff. We really enjoyed working with you on your board, your professionalism, your friendly demeanor, your mentorship. You always champion, we were all looking at the shiny stuff, which was at the time the Sacramento River and all the improvements that we were doing there and continue to do. You always had your focus on the San Joaquin and made that a huge priority. And a few years later, look what we're doing. We're focusing on the San Joaquin. So thank you for your championing in that effort and all your work on this board. I too hope you will continue in public service, maybe not on this board, obviously, but in the future as you proceed on your next endeavor. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well said. Mr. Chris Chernell.
Good morning, everyone. Madam President, members of the board, Chris Chernell. I'm here certainly on behalf of the California Department of Water Resources, for whom I work, but also just personally, and maybe more so the latter than the former this morning. There's so much to say, Tim, and so there's plenty of time after today for all the sappiness that I'd love to go into and really make sure that you fully understand what your presence on this board and more broadly and more importantly, really your presence in my life as my own public service has unfolded in parallel with yours. So there's plenty of time for more. But today, this morning, I think what I want to really just say is, Tim, thank you for always somehow finding this incredibly remarkable and very rare balance between pushing the envelope and practical application of public policy in service of the people. And in this case, for saving lives, for protecting the critters, understanding that you can do in fact both at the same time, and for really being a model for, I think as Board Member Valines mentioned, really creating a space for public discourse that was warm, that was welcoming, that was intense and meaningful, because that as well can be challenging to create. So thank you for all of that service. And one thing I just want to provide a little bit more kind of focus on, there have been several times, I think when, well, I don't think I know, where I have felt, and maybe others can resonate with this as well, that I've come up with a brand new, fantastic idea that nobody else has thought of before, and oh, it's going to be so great, and here's what it's going to look like. for me, oftentimes the focus, the geographic focus of those sorts of what I thought were revelations was the Yola bypass. Spent a lot of time working in that region, as we all have. I know, and it's such an important landscape, so complex. And I would come to Tim with this new, what I thought was this brand new idea, and he would say, "Well, I think we thought about that about 30 years ago. Go back and think harder about it." And so I would come back to him and say, "How about this angle on this really tricky political and practical, ecological and flood problem?" And say,
Political.
"About 20 years ago, we had a pretty similar idea. Go back and think about it again."
Yeah.
And I don't raise that to say anything other than that he was always welcoming of ideas, of creativity. It was never a no, it was always a yes and. It was pushing me and my colleagues at the department to think more creatively, more connectively, to the extent that that's a word here I can use,
It is now.
cooperatively. And there's the value of that for us bureaucrats is immeasurable. There's so much gratitude that I have for your contributions to these conversations, to public service, to the state of California, for being my friend, absolutely a mentor, either directly or through just osmosis and watching you and how you move through these spaces. I can't thank you more. So on behalf of the department and personally, thank you, Tim.
I've been told that we have former Executive Officer Leslie Gallagher online. Leslie, can you hear your voice?
Hi, thank you.
Wow, hello.
It's been a while.
Yeah, good morning.
I can't see you, Tim. I'm sorry, but I know that you're there. And I wish I could be there. But ironically enough, San Diego is digging itself out of an historic rainstorm down here. So I couldn't make it up, and I'm sorry that I couldn't. But I heard this was a roast, and I never want to miss a good roast. So here we go. We're going to take a walk down memory lane. My earliest memory of you was during my closed session interview in the summer of 2013. Do you remember that? You mentioned that only your mother calls you Timothy and that your goal for the board was to get your nameplate changed. I knew from those first words that you were wicked smart, that you had a rapier wit, and that I was not going to get half of your jokes. But my initial intimidation turned to awe at your capacity to absorb and then explain the complex plumbing and politics of the Central Valley, admiration of your compassion and caring for the people who were impacted by these issues, and bonding with you over our love for our daughters, dogs, and backyard chickens. You helped me quickly understand why the board was so important and to believe in the mission as yet unfulfilled. It was your tenacity that kept me working hard to seek the board's rightful place at the table for so many exhausting years. I came to really love Friday mornings, traveling down Baseline Road toward our downtown board meetings, gossiping and chatting with you about the day's business while you were on the train. I really looked forward to our conversations, and I oftentimes still find myself bereft on a random Friday morning when I have no one fun to talk to.
No.
Tim, you're an institution, a force of nature, a man to be reckoned with, and I know that you're no longer on the board, but you will always be part of the board, and you are by no means done with Central Valley issues. And I know I'm richer for having the privilege of working with you for nearly a decade. I thank you for your service, and I hope our paths cross again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I have to get my Kleenex out here, Leslie. Wow. Mr. Rother, did you want to say something? Then I'll ask if there's a few more, then we'll go to staff.
Good morning,
Good morning.
President Dolan and board. My name's Steve Rothard. I am the manager of the Division of Multi-Benefit Initiatives at the Department of Water Resources. And I would echo much of what my colleague Chris Turnell said, but I would add that I've known Tim now for 30 years. First met him in graduate school in a class that we both, I think, got a lot out of. That was taught by a professor named Sally Fairfax. And she always said to try to distill what you want to say into three things. So the first thing that I want to say about Tim is that I immediately recognized his immense capabilities, his strategic thinking, his clarity of purpose, and his sense of humor. Um, Second, I feel really lucky to have crossed paths with you again, Tim, over these last few years in working on these really important flood management issues. And I think you deserve a lot of credit for bringing the renewed or new focus to the San Joaquin Valley, in particular the Tuolumne River. And although we haven't uh, made as much progress as we wanted to in the last couple of years, I am committed to continuing to work on that, and I'm convinced that work that you helped start will bear fruit for the communities and the critters down there. And lastly, I'll just say that I think the Central Valley and indeed the state is really fortunate to have you as a servant to its goals, and the communities and the ecosystems and native fish and wildlife have benefited from your work and commitment to public service. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. Do we have any other audience members? Oh, Mr. Engler. Tom Engler?
Yep, I'm here. Can you
You're
hear
usually
me?
here.
I know I couldn't make it today. I apologize. I miss y'all. I wish I could have been there to say all this stuff in person, but just from the Flood Control Association standpoint, Tim, it's been great to have you on the board for as long as we have. I think you've been very instrumental in the way the plan's gone, and I've always appreciated the questions you asked because they always led to more discussion and helped us go down a path that has really taken us to where we are today. So from all of us at the Flood Control Association and local communities, thank you for your service, and we're going to miss you.
Here, here. Anyone else who's texting you? No? Is there anyone else here? Do we have any staff members who want to be brief? Sorry. Okay. Timmer. Yes, please. That was what that meant. Sorry, I was doing
Have
a
you
little
called on me,
swiping.
President Dolan?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's odd to see you there, not here. But
It's,
thank you for
I was
being
going to
here
start by
today.
saying that it's different to not be there and to be on this side.
Yeah.
And I'm having a little bit of deja vu from last month, but I will confess that last month snuck up on me about my decision. And I was really grateful that the staff were here, all of them, most of them last month to talk to.
Yeah.
I know you're here now, so I'm grateful for that too. But this is different. And I want to first thank Jane, you, and the board for taking this time. And also for just creating a space to have this reflection. It doesn't happen very often. And
Yeah.
I haven't thought a lot about the things that people just said. And thank you for all the nice things that people just said. I never fancied myself as somebody who wanted the attention. And I'm not the smartest person in any area of the details, but I always tried to be a bridge and find the people who knew more about what we were doing and then connect them to the people that were working on something so we be better as a whole. And I will continue to try to do that. I'm not done working, obviously. My time here is over, which is hard to think about, especially now, having heard all these great things that people have done and all these things that we have to do still. But I promise to help from afar as best I can, and I'm not too far away. I did want to say just a couple of quick things, if I can, now that I'm on this side of the table, and I'm not sitting there as a board member. I want to first just acknowledge that I was able to bring Meg today, my wife, who's right here. She came, I
We
think,
certainly want to give thanks to you as well.
Meg and I started dating right when I started working for the state in 1999. So she's been along for the whole ride.
So you knew about it from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
And she's known all of you by name and some of you by face longer than others. But I'm grateful for her attendance today. And Maya's in school where Maya belongs, and Maya will hear about all this later. So our daughter.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank them because there's only so much time in the day, and when all of us are doing things, we have to find a way to strike a balance. And I've tried, but I'll be able to have some more bandwidth now, I think, to do some other things as our daughter continues to evolve in her way. I also wanted to say that I've really enjoyed being part of this institution. Jeff hinted at this when he talked about his service on the board. One of the things I did when I was at the state that I was the happiest about was to help provide input into the board members that were selected when Gray Davis was the governor. And Jeff was among those, and so was Bill Edgar, and so was Betsy Marchand. And the previous board was also wonderful as part of the transition. At the time, there was no transition, right? Like, thank you, and there's a new board, and all 7 people leave, and then new people come. It's not like that anymore. But everybody has always been super gracious about that. The people that were on the board, the people that joined the board.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be one of those members, but I was really happy to have that opportunity. It's a really unique place to be, and it's a really important and a special place to be. It's an entity that was created 110 plus years ago. And I went back and looked to confirm. I thought this was true, and I think that it is. I'm sure Clyde can correct me if I'm wrong, but the vote to create the board was unanimous in both houses at the time. How often does that happen? Which then was followed by decades of litigation from the people who are not happy about the board's creation. Because it gave the state a unique role that didn't have a lot of other places, which is land use, property management, call it what you want to call it. It's a different thing. And there were problems that people identified that really a new organization could only address. And the counties were all doing their thing, the landowners were doing their thing, but the watershed boundaries didn't match any of those. And the watershed's the watershed, right, Joe? Hydrology. And they decided the only thing to do was to have a plan put in place that would make sure things were consistent, even-handed, equitable, and considerate of the people who lived in those areas. And over time expanded to include all the things that are part of that, not just for the people in the valley, but the entire state. The fish that swim back and forth, all the animals that live there, the people and the communities. It's been really exciting to see that happen and to see the interest grow and the relationships grow, the association, all the reclamation districts, all the local maintaining agencies. It's a really unique relationship for the state. And it's continued to evolve. How many organizations have been created to solve a problem that have either disappeared or have been morphed in time in a way that minimize their authority and their role? And this board hasn't had that happen because it's still an important thing to do. And everybody locally who lives there agrees and understands that. And it's a different place to work in water. I've worked in water for a long time, but the flood is a really fun place to work because people want to work together. And often that's the hardest thing to do initially, but when people already have that in mind, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun. And I was really happy to be a part of it. I'm going to miss all of you. Meg was tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "You're going to miss them." I'm like, I know. So I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm going to miss the staff. Maybe the most.
Well, thanks.
I'll talk to you all later.
Yeah.
But I'll still help. So I haven't texted anybody this year yet, but I will start those discussions again and try to work behind the scenes as best I can. I do want to say 3 things really quickly to Steve's point about our friend Sally Fairfax that I can leave you with maybe. Call them goals, aspirations, intentions about the plan that's in front of you or that will be in 2 years. Just wanted to leave a little suggestion maybe for all of you to consider, maybe 3 suggestions. This one's not entirely in your control, but I know discussions are happening and I hope the plan is expanded to include the Tulare Basin. I think that's an obvious thing to say if you look at the history of the board and the watershed boundaries, but I know legislatively we need some people to help. And I think there's people that want to help. I know that all of you would like to help as well. It just makes a lot of sense to me to have that happen. I think everybody agrees, and the challenge is to find a way to do that now that keeps people at the table and keeps them engaged. So that's number one. Number two, I would love to see a plan where there's no conservation strategy as an appendix. It's actually embedded in the plan. The very first time we did this, the plan itself, the conservation strategy, was super controversial on its own. Nobody wanted it to be part of the plan that we adopted. And now it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So we should find a way just to fold it in. And so it's just part of the plan. It's not a separate document that we attach to the back of it. It's too integrated, and it could continue to be that way. And I think that people at the department could do that. They've got a lot of great folks, and I think it's something that could be done. I know it's not entirely in all of our individual controls, but it's a great thing to think about doing in the future. And the last thing is I want to just do what I can to help Joe with whatever we do, whatever you want to call it, Joe, a standard, a target, something about the new hydrology and what we should be striving for. So there's a higher bar for people to meet based on what's coming and what's already happened. And I know that's on your list, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm going to be your biggest fan, and I will do anything I can to help. I think a lot of folks also want to see that happen as well. And I don't know what it looks like yet, but I think it's widely acknowledged that we need to do more and find a way to fold that into our planning. So I have no doubt that that'll happen in some way, shape, or form, just because the board has continued to find a way to evolve and adapt when new challenges confront themselves, and the state has found a way to navigate those hurdles and to make those things happen. And I think that'll continue to be the case. I also will say just finally that I feel okay stepping back, although it's still hard because of all the people that are here. So the 6 of you are super. And I have no doubt that you will continue to provide the leadership that the staff need and the state needs. So thank you all for your service, and let me know if I can help with anything.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, our thanks to you. Don't leave. You're important enough to get an important one.
Small.
So it's yours.
Thank you.
I think we got it right. Thank you for.
Thank you, Jane.
And please know that the board president can form committees and bring people on. I want one.
Okay.
I want. Oh. It's like the Oscars. One with the board, do you think?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, bring Megan. Is that okay?
Backlit. Yeah, something's not backlit. Look, you just move this in. But here, we can do this.
Here, ready? I was going to help lift that, but now I can't do that.
Water over there.
Oh. Where are we?
we're going to take 6 minutes for more hugs and getting ready for our agenda. We'll have a brief break.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Oh, I'm gonna write an official number.
Yeah, I believe it.
Put it to the file.
Thank you, Mom. And now he's between us.
I am.
That's all
And
right.
he tried to take your file.
What?
He tried to touch your file. I still don't know what that is.
It's coffee with cream swirled on the top.
So it's just a lot.
Yeah, but no phone.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of home. And it's only Starbucks. Okay, we go. The board has reconvened. We'll be moving to our other agenda items, and I'm going to just briefly explain how this meeting will go. Next up will be our minutes to be approved. After that is a portion of the agenda called consent items. These are things that are well routed, maybe previously heard. They definitely need to be approved. If you saw the agenda that was released had 5 items, but for today it's 4 because item 5A is going to be postponed to our meeting in February. Item 6, so after that is item 6. It's a spot that's called public comments. This is when we will invite comments for items that are not on our agenda, but within our jurisdiction, for which we will receive the comment only and are not allowed by law to engage in a conversation. Then comes item 7, a legislative update, which is prepared by our executive officer that we may or may not have comments on, or we may just receive it. Item 6 will be 2 informational reports, presentations from the United States Army Corps of Engineers. That's 8. Did I say 6? Thank you. No, I said 8.
Okay.
Right there. Item 9 will be two items presented to us by DWR. Expect item 9 to take some time. Item 10 is identified as board items, and there are 2 matters that we will be hearing that are information, one that will be coming later for more action. Item 11 is a list of reports that we receive from our executive officer, our branches, and our divisions. Sometimes we talk about it, sometimes we acknowledge that we did our homework. Item 13 is to advise everyone of upcoming meeting dates and locations. There is no, item 14 and 15 are on the agenda, but there will be no closed sessions, so we'll skip those and proceed after all of our business to adjournment. So next up, approval of the minutes of October 27th. I will ask our secretary, Brian Johnson, to present.
Good morning, everyone. This is the approval of the October 27 board meeting minutes. I've reviewed them. I believe they're in order, and I move that they be approved.
Okay. The motion to approve is before us. Member Johnson, is there a second? I'll second. Second by Member Griego. Anybody want to talk about it? Please call the roll.
Board Member Bosler. Secretary Johnson.
Aye.
Board Member Countryman.
Aye.
Board Member Griego.
Yes.
Vice President Valines. Aye. President Dolan.
Yes. The yeses and the ayes collectively have carried. The minutes are approved. 6 votes in favor, 1 vacancy. I know we go back and forth between yes and I. It's just our thing. Sorry about that. The consent items, as I indicated, are 4. So it is starting with item B, which is permit 19618 for a single-family residence by the homeowners to be in the Yuba River designated floodway. It is, we've received the Army Corps letter of permission, and it's in the Hallwood area. Item, I've got to get my number right, Mr. Country. 5C is permit number 19710, San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, Stockton Diamond Grade Separation Project of a culvert at the Mormon Slough. 5D is permit number 19721, Pacific Gas and Electric Company. This is a non-federal issue, no core input, and there are no issues. Approval is obviously recommended. Item 5E is approval and adoption of a stipulated settlement decision and enforcement order for enforcement case 2022-15450, the May landowners. And I'm not supposed to comment, but I must say our enforcement section did a remarkable job on that one. So does anyone wish to remove any of these 4 items for discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? I'll make a motion. Made by Member Grego, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Johnson. Please call the roll.
Board Member Bosler,
Aye.
Secretary Johnson,
Aye.
Board Member Countryman,
Yes.
Board Member Griego,
Yes.
Vice President Valines,
Yes.
President Dolan.
Yes. Yeah, the yeses have it. The consent agenda, as presented, the 4 items has been adopted, 6 votes in favor, one vacancy. So we're now at item number 6, which is, as I said, public comment, and we do have some folks who have indicated by giving a card that they wish to speak. So I'll call those names in the order that they were given to me. And was that from me? Okay. Somebody was whispering. So I'm going to just ask folks, I keep folks to brief indications, no verbal, no picture presentations, particularly not movie, even if it's short. So it's something within our jurisdiction, and we just will receive the comment. So Mr. Mark Berry, please put 3 on the clock. Mr. Berry, good morning.
Good morning. This working okay?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, President Dolan and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to make public comment. My name is Mark Berry. I'm a member of Save the American River Association. The Save the American River Association was fundamental in forming the American River Parkway. As you know, the Corps of Engineers has a proposed project along the American River Parkway, Contract 3B, and the board will be the lead agency for CEQA review on that project. 2 concerns have arisen really in anticipation of that review. And one is that the level of environmental destruction seems to be disproportionate to the identified erosion protection objective. Now, have you guys gone out there and seen the Common Features Project 1 and 2 out there at Sac State and actually really walked it? It's scraped flat, denuded, channelized river. And I know there's different objectives there on that particular project. But, even then, the impacts seem a little more than what was represented. So on this Contract 3B that's coming up, there's a 500 tree riparian woodland that's proposed to be similarly scraped and denuded. A section of the plan view shows a riprap all the way into the river and up to near the top of the levee. Now, directly upstream of this Contract 3B site is the 20 acres in the designated floodway of the Cassis property. And over the last couple of years, we've documented over 140 species on that site, 23% of them in some sort of special status list. And it seems to be there's a high probability of a similar species density on this Contract 3B site. The other sort of concern, the second concern really is the American River Parkway Plan is the management plan for the federal and state wild and scenic river and doesn't seem to be fully considered. Of the 5 categories of recreational use in the American River Parkway Plan, only cycling seems to be fairly considered in the July 2021 consistency findings. So nature appreciation, that includes the aquatics and the hiking and so forth, and these other categories don't seem to really be fairly addressed. Now, the Lower American River is the wild and scenic river that flows through a major metropolitan area. It's the only one in the United States. It's a unique American asset. And please consider this an opportunity to show that riverine habitat and human floodplain management can coexist. And I'm finishing up, just have two requests. One is the Corps of Engineers public outreach seems to be to many disappointing. So could we possibly put this on the board's agenda maybe next month and maybe even have a tour to show us what's going to happen out there on the site? And then the other request is please evaluate this contract 3B with the heightened level of review consistent with the American River Parkway special status as a unique wild and scenic river in America. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Mr. Bratton? William or Bill Bratton? Good morning.
Good morning, President Dolan and members of the board. My name is Bill Bratton. I'm a California registered civil engineer and recently retired from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board, where I worked as a water resource control engineer for 25 years. I'm here representing myself. I'm not representing the board since I'm retired from there. And I'm also here to speak about the American River Contract 3B. I live nearby at right next to the Mayhew Drain, in fact, and the project extends, my understanding, Contract 3B extends from Watt Avenue to near the Mayhew Drain. I'm particularly concerned about this river stretch next to the Larchmont Community Park, which is a river mile 10.4 to 10.5. There's a 2017 stream bank erosion monitoring report where your staff and staff from SAPCA went out and inspected. And the conclusion of that report is that the erosion at that location is not a threat to the levee due to the thickness of the berm, which I would agree with. I've emailed a video to Chavez D'Agostine this morning that I wanted to show you, but I'm not allowed. But it's basically a video taken on February 10th, 2017, when the river was at its highest level since the 1997 high level. It was at 82,000 CFS, and the video is taken immediately next to the water's edge, and it shows that the water is not moving at all, and along the riverbank, and where it's up into the trees, it's completely still. And the water is moving out in the river channel at a high velocity, but not along the riverbank where this erosion protection work is to be done. So basically, when the river comes up, that buried riprap that is going to be installed will not see any flow velocity impacting on it. During lower flow rates around 25,000 CFS, there is some flow right up against where the existing erosion is, and that may cause the riprap to launch, which would then cover the beach area and make it inaccessible for recreational use, which is one of the designated attributes for under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, for which the American River was designated. I would just ask that when the board hears this item, that you consider at least modifying some of these areas to not include the buried riprap where it's not needed. You're basically going to be advancing the erosion front artificially, whereas if you leave it as is, it shouldn't advance much at all. I also would like to request a public meeting where we go out and hopefully even go out and look at the riverbank. And I suggest the OW Earlywine Elementary School, which is right next to Larchmont Community Park, where Army Corps has had public meetings in the past. Thank you.
We hear you. Thank you. If you send it to our staff, we'll receive it. Who is next? Someone who has writing similar to mine. Mr. Pete Spalding. I think I have that right. Mr. Spalding.
Good morning, President Dolan and board members.
Good morning.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. Being vertically challenged, I'm used to keeping things short. So thank you very much for the opportunity to add my comments to those already expressed by my colleagues. And thank you for noting that the comment period on the erosion control project coming up has been extended to February 23rd. If any of the board members or your staff members were able to attend the 2 virtual public meetings conducted by the Corps on January 10th and January 16th, meetings that received hardly any publicity, they attracted about 170 and 190 people respectively. And there were a number of questions that the public has on these projects. The meetings were also extended they were originally scheduled for 60 minutes. Each of them was extended to 2.5 hours because of all the interest in this project. Given the complexity of the projects, the large area that they cover, especially contracts 3B North and South, 4A and 4B, can the board, SAFCA, DWR, and the Army Corps schedule in-person public meetings to inform more of the public and get all the questions asked and answered? The maps and diagrams that attempt to show the details of these projects are too small to be of any value. If you download the PDF of the SEIR and enlarge the figures and diagrams as much as you can on your computer, you still cannot see any of the detail needed to adequately review these projects. I'm talking about figures and maps that show the erosion control protection methods. All the figures need to be enlarged in order to be reviewed, and a public meeting would be a great way to do that. As of today, the American River can accommodate a flow of 160,000 cubic feet per second. If Contract 3B is completed as planned, the river will be able to accommodate a flow of 160,000 cubic feet per second. If the project is not completed, if Contract 3B, 3A and B, and 4A and 4B, if they're not completed, the river still will be able to accommodate a flow of 160,000 cubic feet per section. So this erosion control contract will not add any additional flood protection for Sacramento. Instead, it will kill hundreds of trees, including protected heritage oaks, destroy acres of vegetation that holds the bank together and slows waterfall flow, both of which provide protection from erosion. And from what I can tell looking at the diagrams and map, it will remove access to many beaches that have been used by fishermen, birders, photographers, kayakers, and rafters for decades. All of these are a direct violation of the 2006 Sacramento County American River Parkway Plan. Now, I know erosion control will extend the life of our levees and protect our flood control system, but this is not an emergency contract. So let's take a breath, give people the extra time needed to do an adequate review. Let's work together to produce a plan that provides the flood protection and erosion control that we need without destroying the American River Parkway. The crown jewel of Sacramento, and as Mark said, the only federally designated wild and scenic river in the entire country that runs through an urban area.
Are you going to sum up?
Yes. There's a famous bluegrass song called Paradise, written by John Prine in 1971. And the chorus goes something like this. And Daddy, won't you take me down to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train has hauled it away. In a few years, someone will be writing a similar song about Sacramento. And the chorus will go something like this. And Daddy, won't you take me back to the American River Parkway, the crown jewel of Sacramento, the city of trees? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency, and the Central Valley Flood Protection Board have bulldozed it away. Please don't let this be your legacy. Let's work together to have erosion control and flood protection and a parkway that we all love. Thank you.
We hear you. Ellen Gans? Ms. Gans? And after her would be Brenda Gustine? Guston? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Excuse me. I teared up a little bit listening to the last speakers, and that is because my area, the 3B area. Sorry, I'm not used to this. I'm not a professional like other people. Closer? Okay.
That's good. Just a little bit closer. Yes, don't worry about it. We're going to listen.
Thank you. I live next to Larchmont Community Park. I live 2 houses down. I have an 8-year-old son that attends OW Earlywine. There's a baby I can see behind my gate that lives in our neighborhood. We do have a community of young children, and we all utilize that river area. It was very devastating to read these plans, and that's why I'm here to comment and thank you for your time listening to us. What I have learned from going to the meetings and talking to people is that we are concerned that our area of the river is not as in danger as the other areas that need protection from flood control. That the 2015 erosion protection report by the Army Corps of Engineers described the area of the project as having hard material that is erosion resistant, and the 2017 River Steam Bank monitoring report found that erosion at the 3B site does not threaten the levee due to the width of the berm. That I'd agree with the past speaker that it's hard to see the areas and what's exactly going to be done on the small windows that we've been given. When you go out to the area and you see how big our area is and how far it is from the levee to the river, and just thinking how we've seen it in the river rise and it doesn't come anywhere near to the levee because of how wide it is and how we have this big forest area. And so what we're wondering is if there is any way to do the work that's needed and protect. We live right next to the river. We're as concerned with flood control as anyone. But is there any way to do it without bulldozing these 500 trees that our kids play on? I'm also concerned with the amount of work that will be done. That the plans as proposed have a lot of truck trips, over 100 trucks daily that will go by my house. That in the age group of children 2 to 16 years old, children are 3 times more sensitive to a carcinogen like diesel exhaust than adults. These are going right past OW Earlywine School, the staging area, and the truck routes back up to Earlywine School. And this will impact the health of these children. So if there's any way to mitigate the air quality control issues, is there a way to reroute trucks away from the elementary school? Is there a way to minimize the staging area or put staging areas at other schools? In the plans that proposed, it doesn't recognize that OW Earlywine is a Title I school, that we are low income area. We fear that we've been chosen because other people have the resources to ask for more, and that's why we're here to ask you, who can help us, to ask for more. Finally, I would ask that that we'd like to see a document similar to the one that was created for the previous completed projects, like the document titled Lower American River Subreach 2, the summary of bank protection conceptual design, that there was alternatives prepared for other subreaches. We would like to see that for ours. And finally, just to wrap up, if there is any way to keep it a recreation area for our children, we definitely use it and appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Brenda Guston, if I said that correctly, you will correct me. And then Bianca Vargas after that. Good morning.
Good morning. You pronounced it correctly.
Okay.
I really appreciate
you, all of this, you board, for dedicating your time and expertise to the board. I'm also here to request an on-site public meeting regarding the Corps of Engineers Contract 3B. As you heard, many people attended the last two meetings. A vast majority of the attendees are professionals and specialists with detailed information and questions concerning this proposed removal of all vegetation in order to keep residents safe from future flooding incidents. This public land is entrusted in our care. The American River Parkway and the federal and state designated Wild and Scenic American River, which is our crown jewel. Many aspects of this proposal do not seem to follow guidelines within both the American River Parkway Plan or the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. Over 1,000 pages were provided just before the holidays in December for public review and comment by February 5th. We appreciate the extension to February 23rd, yet I don't think it's enough time to answer the plethora of questions being posed. Yes, Sacramento must be ready for increasing flows in the American River. However, I think data need be more accessible and in layman terms, justifying why the current landscape and habitat is unsustainable, and if left in its natural state will endanger residents. The plans shown on the USACE website and in their presentation lack details of this major construction project, nor are they clear where data was collected to warrant such extreme measures. Educating the public on consideration of less destructive measures and how they were determined unsuitable to protect Sacramento is key to understanding why we are being told these extreme measures must be executed now. The usage video on your website of the project completed downriver at Sac State looks like a wasteland with no explanation as to how the revegetation will look or when the flora and fauna will return. Absent are examples of successful projects elsewhere, drawings and time-lapse photography showing a healthy return of the environment. I heard that if USACE doesn't act fast, funds will be lost. Timelines shown in the documents seem impractical since studies executed in the past require review before construction can begin. I also heard that property has not yet been purchased to mitigate lost habitat before the bulldozing begins. It doesn't seem prudent that public comment in before major needs such as this remain unknown and planned bulldozing begins. This board, SAFCA, and DWR are our local public representatives, and yet SAFCA, in their response to citizens' correspondence, seems to be passing responsibility to you.
We got to wrap up, guys.
Please place this item
Thank
on
you.
your February 9th agenda and work with the other agencies to answer our questions and receive much needed data. And yes, an on-site public meeting would be really important to actually see this area that's going to be destroyed. Thank you so for your time.
Ms. Bianca Vargas, and then after that is Kathleen Cregan, and then I have no, oh, and then Mr. Hart. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Bianca Vargas. I'm the daughter of Celso Vargas Jr., property owner in the little pocket of a property affected by orders from this board. I've been helping him navigate these orders, and I'm here to represent him. On November 15th, 2022, he was ordered to remove encroachments on his property, including a boat dock, pilings, stairways, cement pad, gangway plank, etc. He was ordered to submit a plan and schedule to remove all encroachments at his expense. Another option was to remove everything except for the dock pilings, and the third option was the enforcement, where his permit would be revoked and all encroachments again removed at his expense. While we understand the need to comply with these orders to make room for the U.S. ACE flood mitigation plans, we've never understood the reason why, and I've been in communication with staff, for not complying with the regulation that clearly speaks to existing encroachments with an adopted plan of flood control. I've written many times over the past 14 months, well, not many, 3 times to staff regarding this regulation, and just want to flag for the board that staff is not giving me clear response as to why this board isn't conforming and complying with Article 6, well, Title 23 CCR 108 about existing encroachments. In our case, we believe we're compliant, or what would apply here is non-conforming existing encroachments that have a major detrimental impact shall be removed, abandoned, or suitably modified at no cost to the owner if they have been in existence prior to the adoption or authorization of a project by the United States or prior to the adoption or authorization of a plan of flood control by the state. We understand that the flood control plan is the American River Common Features 2016 project. My dad's dock and encroachments have been in full compliance since 1978. So we think we fit perfectly into this regulation. Staff is not providing explanation as to why he's being ordered to remove these encroachments at his expense. I'd really appreciate clear communication as to why this regulation doesn't apply when it's contemplated perfectly existing encroachments within an adopted plan of flood control. So I'd like that communication, and if there could be a response from staff as to why you can't comply. Thank you.
We hear you. Thank you. Catherine Cregan and Carrie Hart. And that's the last one that I have. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Cregan. I'm just a private citizen. I walk the American River Parkway on the horse trail every single morning. I adore it. I'm here simply to ask the board to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to amend the current plan to better preserve and be less destructive of the American River Parkway. I'm told that 8 million people enjoy this parkway every year, and that's more than the number of people who enjoy Yosemite. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Hart.
Morning. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
your hard work and for taking time out of your lives to do this.
It is our life.
I'm also a kind of a neighbor of the parkway, and I love it. I walk there very often. I think it's really important that the Corps take time to find a less destructive, more focused way to improve erosion. And I want to put in a special plea for the trees. You can't mitigate 200, 300-year-old trees in less than 200 or 300 years. We're their guardians. We need to do the best we can to take good care of the parkway, and appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other folks who wish to. Is there anyone who did not submit a card that wants to speak on something? Public comment, no conversation. Okay, I see none. So we'll proceed. Do you have any online? We have no hands up. Thank you for reminding me. We do have some online folks. Oh, we do? Carrie, Trans Network.
Oh, I'm
sure
sorry.
that's not your last name.
Yes, I'm sorry. I did email the clerk, but it was this morning, so it may not have been received. Thank you all for being here. My name is Carrie Connect, not Network, and I am speaking as a concerned member of Sacramento County. Like others have expressed, this is a really important stretch of the riverfront. When I go out there on summer weekends, the banks are just full of people like swimming, parents taking their kids to fish, and cooling off. And I'm really concerned that the project would replace those beaches and the trees with riprap where the trees will struggle to grow. I think others have spoken better than I can to the engineering questions. I'm new to attending these board meetings, but I've already gotten a sense of you all from watching your celebration of the outgoing chair about, as a culture, a place of thoughtful and dedicated public service. And so I would echo others in asking that you bring that same sense of thoughtfulness and to your role in this project. Um, from my perspective, the project seems very unnecessarily destructive. It's not clear from what I've been able to read that the project is needed. I won't repeat what others have said about some of the documents that have raised questions about it. And then, I think to understand why something so destructive would need to happen, it would really help to understand what the alternatives were that had been considered. I think someone else spoke to, a previous study done for an adjacent subreach called the Summary of Bank Protection Conceptual Design Process that promised that subreaches 3 and 4, which are the ones under consideration here, would receive a similar study of various bank protection options. And if this study was done, it hasn't been released to the general public, and it would really help to see which designs were considered, how they were rated, the design process, as was done for subreach 4. And for instance, this design, my understanding is that it relies heavily on the use of riprap. And I came across a FEMA report that I would call to everyone's attention called Engineering with Nature, Alternative Techniques to Riprap Bank Stabilization, that describes how riprap can have counterproductive impacts. And it gives some really inspiring case studies of alternative approaches that, consistent with the wild and scenic designation and the American River Parkway plan, these alternatives, this could be a place to continue that lineage of inspiring case studies. And then finally, given the questions about what really is going to happen, what alternatives, the extent to which the project is even needed, I would like to echo others in suggesting that there be an in-person on-site meeting with all the decision makers to help all of us who are concerned about this project understand. And again, thank you all. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but we want to appreciate your time.
I suspect we'll see you at some point in the future. Could you spell your last name for us so that we have it appropriately on the record?
Sure, yeah, it's Knecht. Only one vowel, but you pronounce it connect, like connect the dots.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This is the last call. We're going to proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, I see. David O'Connor, yes. I'm hoping a lot more people don't pop up, just to be honest. Mr. O'Connor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good morning, President Dolan and board members, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. My name is Dave O'Connor. I'm the state hydrologist for BLM California, and I'm a California registered geologist. Before BLM, I was a senior hydrologist at the River Forecast Center and then a senior hydrologist at Reclamation. So I'm very familiar with reservoir and flood control ops. I'm here for the next phase of the Common Features Project, Erosion Contract 3B, as it came across my desk from Department of Interior as a review request checking for undue environmental degradation or harm. I, of course, have great respect for the Corps and this board and their extremely difficult mission, and I think the board and the Corps has done an amazing amount of work around California. From my time at the RFC, personally forecasting scary fulsome inflow volumes during wet months and staying in the loop with, climate change hydrometeorology as much as I can and seeing what's possible, I completely trust the need to have a safe channel for 160 kCFS. The work the Corps is wrapping up on the Big Bend near Sac State might have had better justification, as others have kind of alluded to, for needing armoring. But basically, this straight stretch of multi-miles of river for the next contract, Howe or Watt to Mayhew Drain, with so much great habitat and resource categories across the board, has very little compelling data in the NEPA doc supporting why this work is needed or why the fix needs to be the way it is, especially with all that's at stake. Instead of old flow models and widespread tree removal and riprap placement, it seems a whole lot of other modern tools and methods and integrating nature-based solutions as much as possible could have been explored a lot more. The main criteria for risk assessment were model velocity results and soil type that go into shear stress exceedances. And the third is past erosion evidence. In a nutshell, I wasn't convinced a good enough look was taken in any of those three foundational pillars of the work. The main hydrodynamic model referenced is from 2004. And there's very light conceptualization of the 3D geologic architecture and little evidence of past erosion presented. I found many analyses insufficient. Going through the NEPA docs, I found also other missing work from other agencies such as USGS's. But for the flow model, really an elephant in the room, in my opinion, driving this work, there's no documentation or discussion provided, which Reclamation and DWR provide comprehensively in their projects with big modeling components. So it's basically a black box model that I couldn't even review. There was nothing provided about model development, refinement, verification, what observation data was used, and neither was a robust uncertainty analysis or even any uncertainty analysis, which is a key to effective environmental decision making. It seems the Corps is really hanging their hat in this older model as it's written now, and there's just so much at risk. What's more, I think that's really important is in the last few years, Caltrans and DOT commissioned an academic group to run detailed hydrodynamics using sophisticated modeling for the Route 160 bridge area. And a few journal articles came out of that. Their major findings were how fast velocity at the banks will be if there's not sufficient trees and vegetation, which could really make conditions worse in the post-project condition, especially if this revegetation fails. And I think there's some room for BLM to help inform the project. Stream restoration is an area that we have expertise in. As others have said, there's just decades of evidence in this country and across the world of revegetation failing on large-scale riprap environments, and the roots just really can't get past the large rocks. And there's really no shortage of examples of large-scale destruction in the end worsening erosion. So to me, basically, to wrap this up, I think just like a person needs, I think a second or third opinion is desperately needed before this major surgery continues upstream, maybe even as soon as next month, removing high quality habitat and recreation areas. If not, I really feel Sacramento could have a major folly and scar on its hands that would even impact its economy as a less sought after place to live, because it really is, as others have said, the crown jewel of Sacramento. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. I'm assuming, given your position and experience with the federal government, you do know how to make official comments.
I do.
Okay, okay, thank you. Did anyone else happen to raise their hand? No, then we can proceed. Okay, thank you all. And please go to the websites about the extension and how to make comments for this project so that they're in that package of the record. Item number 7 is a legislative update that our executive officer puts together for information. Thank you, Mr. Leaf. Do you want to highlight anything in particular?
Nothing to highlight, but one update. In the report, it was mentioned that there was a deal at the federal government to pass another continuing resolution. Since the report was prepared, that continuing resolution passed, and the new deadlines are in March.
So it's not shutting down yet. It's yeah, it's not an example we would want to follow. So board, can we take a 5-minute break? I need to go down the hall. 6 minutes, please. Set the timer. Break. The board meeting has reconvened. Turn my microphone on. I think you all heard finally at 10:55, our meetings are recorded. I apologize. I'm supposed to say that at the beginning. But we're public and that's what we do. All right, we're going to move on to item number 8. Is that correct, Mr. Countryman?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Item number 8, I won't say it. It will be introduced by board staff in the enforcement section. Zubair Dosu. Good morning still.
Good morning, President Dolan. Good morning, Vice President Valiance and members of the board. My name is Zubair Dosu, and I am a water resource engineer for the board. Today, we have a presentation for the USA's levee inspections for Maintenance Area 9, City of Sacramento, American River Left Bank Levee System. And so after the presentation, I will provide board staff's analysis on the inspection results. We also have in attendance the LMA representatives for each levee segment. So if there are questions, they can speak to that as well. I also will be available to provide answers to questions that are asked by the board. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome USA's Chief of Inspection Section, Juan Gonzalez.
Good morning, Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning.
USACE is United States Army Corps of Engineers. But most federal governments like to shorten that to USACE.
We have a lot of acronyms.
Welcome.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Thank you, Zubair, for the introduction. Can we get the other presentation? As Zubair mentioned, I'm here to present on the Maintenance Area 9 City of Sacramento American River Left Bank Levee System. This system is located
I'm
with.
sure it will advance. Just keep talking.
Oh, no,
Oh,
this
you have
is
the,
this
who
is
has the clicker?
it's not the
Not
right
me.
presentation.
Okay. We're listening.
Perfect. Thank you.
Actually, we have this, so you can go.
Sorry, clicker's not working. There it is.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the map of the system. It is located here in Sacramento County. It is protecting the city of Sacramento as well as some South Sacramento County areas. It is a system that is comprised of 6 levee segments on the American River as well as the Sacramento River.
Mr. Gonzalez, could you move the mic up and a little bit closer
yep.
to you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The levee system is approximately 36.5 miles long. And so generally it goes from Mayhew Drain on the American River down to the Sacramento River, and then the Sacramento River down to Snodgrass Slough. This is a slide of the report card. This is showing 6 systems in the columns on the right-hand side, as well as if you looked at the top left corner, you can see that the system is has an improved LOI SWIFT, and so it is active in the PL 849 rehabilitation program. Other things to note on this slide, we've got 2 colors here. Orange is noting the more serious unacceptable observations, notably within encroachments, erosion bank caving, as well as animal control. The last slide here I have is showing 4 pictures. These 4 pictures, I guess the thing to note here, just kind of common among all these pictures, is that we were unable to find permits for all 4 of these observations. And so the first picture here is on the Sacramento River. It is a 36-inch pipe through the levee. We were unable to identify a closure structure on the water side. It also doesn't have a internal inspection, so we don't understand the internal condition of the levee. Second picture here is 3 24-inch pipes. I believe this is part of a pump station. Also does not have any sort of flap gate or closure structure on any of these, 3 pipes on the water side. Again, no video inspection or no internal inspection that we were able to identify. Pictures 3 and 4, they're both retaining walls. The picture on the left-hand side, the number 3,
it's downstream more on the Sacramento River. It is about 3 feet tall. It is built into the landside slope of the levee. And then picture 4 is about 2 feet tall, built into the landside slope of the levee. And then that one appears less stable, doesn't appear engineered. It's constructed of what I would call concrete cylinders. I don't have any other slides. Happy to take questions if anybody on the board has questions.
Thank you for that information. I think that Mr. Zubair is going to provide some information. Member Countryman.
I have a question. I noticed on the Mayhew Drain area, there was no erosion. Erosion was deemed acceptable. Is that correct?
On the Mayhew Drain segment.
Yeah, and in that area, they were all acceptable.
So erosion that would impact the levee. So I just want to be clear that we looked at the levee and we didn't necessarily go out into the channel and look at the channel. And so we looked at the immediate area within the levied area. And sorry, I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. And I'll just go back to the next previous slide. It does not
Does it
seem
go
to be working.
backwards?
There we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, there.
So erosion bank caving, which is the 4th item there on the, yeah, you're right. So it is rated acceptable. So we didn't have any observations on that segment.
Because of all the comments we had previously about that, I was just concerned. And that's because the bank where the levee is, there's no erosion, but there's some distance where the bank goes to the river where there might be some erosion there. Is that how you would interpret this?
Sure. And I think it's important to note that what we observed may not have been during a flood event. And it certainly is a snapshot in time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else questions before Mr. Zubair provides more? Don't see that. You need your slide put up as well?
Thank you. Yeah, just
Mr.
one
Doty?
moment, please.
Got it going? We have it if you, okay, we've got it. Everyone's got it now. You don't?
So what you can see here is the comparison report between the USA's 2010 inspection compared to USA's 2021 inspection. And as you can see that the LMAs did improve in areas in operations and maintenance manuals, as well as slope stability and animal control. There's one thing that you should note, that the Mayhew levee segment was not a federally authorized levee segment in 2010, so it was not inspected. So there is no coloring showing improvements for that levee segment. There's also been numerous levee improvement projects along the American River that we heard earlier today for bank protection, as well as the Sacramento River East Levee improvement projects that to construct the cutoff walls, slurry cutoff walls, and landside seepage berms, as well as to address the erosion repair along the Sacramento River and the removal of encroachments along the project footprint. There's also been coordination between the board staff enforcement section and the city of Sacramento to, for the city of Sacramento to enter into an agreement with the California Railroad Museum to relocate the trains off of the levee in periods of high water. That way that there can be maintenance and flood fighting in those periods of high waters and without conflict with trains. As let's see, let's go to the next slide. We have showing improvements that were made for the city of Sacramento on their flood wall with the vegetation growth, and they also made improvements in the tilting and sliding of concrete structures. And so that will conclude my presentation, and I'm able to answer any questions if there are, or if there's any comments that the LMAs would like to make themselves. Now would be the time.
Board members want to hear from the local maintaining entities?
Yes.
Okay, good work.
I
do too.
Mr. Countryman and Member
The
Johnson.
items that there were no permits found for it, I assume our staff looked diligently to see if they could find any permits for those structures?
That is correct. So those structures, we have not found any permits for. Currently, what we're doing at the board is digitizing all of our permit records. So there is a little bit delay in what features may have permits and that have not made it to been digitized to our viewer yet. However, for those encroachments, they most likely do not have permits.
Do
The
we have
two-
any
the
idea who
two-
the owners are of those?
The city of Sacramento owns and operates the pipes through the levees that you've seen in the photographs prior in Juan's presentation. And so one of the structures with the 3 outfalls, it does have a permit for modification of that feature. However, it does not have a permit that authorized the initial installment of that encroachment. So it's on its pathway to permitting, as I like to say. And so I think at the board, what we can do going forward is when we see encroachments that do not have permits and they're being modified, that we go back and somehow address and bring the whole encroachment into compliance with permittation.
So on those 4 that they're showing, that's underway to get those permitted?
Well, they are under the board's radar now. And so through enforcement and the permitting, we will take a closer look at those and engage the city and getting the permit complete on their end.
Thanks.
Member Johnson.
Thank you. That was one of my questions. I often look at these reports and have a hard time judging what level of concern we should have for these. We see a lot that will turn up as likely to affect performance in a flood event, and we know we're likely to have flood events. And that question is always, in what way are these likely to affect performance? You know, what actually is likely to be happening? And sometimes I can go onto Google Earth and look around and get a feel for the topography and get a sense of, even if performance is affected, maybe it's okay. These, though, there's a lot going on in this area. And so help us understand what level of concern and sense of urgency we should be having for these that show up as likely to affect performance in a flood event.
So what I want to acknowledge is that from Juan's presentation, as you have seen with the pipe encroachments, that a lot of the dings that they had on that were that we don't have video inspection reports. So its effect on the levee is kind of unknown. But from a conservative point of view, if there's no data at all, that has an impact on the levee that we do not know. So they in their work, they try and take a more conservative approach on their evaluation of that. But as the Corps' video inspection requirement is a relatively new imposed requirement. And so here at the board, through the inspection section, we are currently rolling out the routine inspections that will um, uh, require the need for video inspections when we issue permits to those encroachments. So this was a new change that was implemented under the fees and that came about in 2019. So as these encroachments are in need of new permits from new ownership or whatnot, that will trigger the need for video inspection. As well as the board has, through the authority of Title 23, we have the authority to require video inspection whenever needed as well. Does that answer your question, Board Member Johnson?
I still have a ways to go before I can really get a good feel for the level of concern, but that is helpful.
I think the level of concern could kind of be alleviated when we look at like the larger levee improvement projects that have been that come forward in that area to increase the integrity of the levee with the bank protection and cutoff walls and to address seepage as well.
Okay, board members? Questions? Member Butler?
Comment is, I mean, this is clearly an area where there's a lot.
Right.
And so our responsibility around encroachment.
Microphone.
Just our responsibility around the encroachments, I think, should be at a higher level of importance in this area. And so, I mean, overall, I thought the report was really good and the maintaining agency should be commended for their work. But I do still concerned about those things because you just never know which is the one that's really a problem. So important to prioritize it is my thought, is when I reviewed the materials.
Okay, that's three. Three of us might want to also say something, but what I'm hearing is that these reports are important. The information is being received, but the follow-up and the actions that may need to be taken should probably be addressed at the same time. So like,
Certainly.
hey, you got some pipes and we don't know anything about them.
You have to.
Maybe a comment of, we're working on it in this manner. So, and you
That
could
is
say
certainly
that.
true,
Yeah.
President Dolan, that the board is aware of these issues and that have been highlighted in the inspection report.
Board staff is aware.
Board staff is aware of these issues and we are currently addressing them.
Okay.
But we are working in a priority way with high risk first, addressing the high risk encroachments first.
And we know this is an area where a lot of work is underway. There's phases to it, and I guess more to come.
Mm-hmm.
So be incorporated there. Okay. Board members? Oh, all right.
I don't know if there was a comment. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. To Mark List from MA9.
Good morning, Mark List. I'm Supervising Engineering Geologist, Department of Water Resources, Maintenance Area 9 representative here. The specific inspection report items that were shown by Mr. Gonzalez, item 3, I think, the retaining wall that was shown, my research, I haven't been able to find a design memorandum from the Corps, but my research shows that that individual item, technically an encroachment, predates the system. Very likely, well, that location is the former location of Freeport Station. Sacramento Southern Railroad historic line had a spur that the trains would come pick people up at that location. As far as I can tell, that retaining wall, the very nice 3-foot tall retaining wall, has existed since at least 1909, but not certain of that. So it predates the system, might need to place some sort of grandfathered condition on it. Technically, State Parks owns that section of the levee there. Remember, that section of the levee was a railroad line before it was a levee, before the federal government superimposed a levee on top of a rail line. Again, there was a predating rail line there as well. From a concern standpoint, I'm not concerned at all about that particular cut into the levee slope. We can maintain the levee there. We can flood fight the levee there. There's a wide area for pulling off and put flood fight materials there if we need to. Not a big issue. It is certainly an encroachment, like all the other encroachments that need to be looked at, researched, identified whether there is or is not an owner, whether there needs to be some action. I'm honestly not concerned at all about that location. It's existed very well. The wall's not bending, turning, for as far as I can tell, my entire tenure, and significantly longer than that at that location. Maintenance Area 9 we take the data from the Corps, we utilize the data, and we identify punch lists of items. So we've certainly addressed the U-rated encroachment and bank caving. As Mr. Dorsey said, the area is within the zone, and you're all aware that the ARCF 2016 project, Sacramento River East Levee improvements, superimpose many of these areas. So lots of the encroachments or other issues, erosion bank caving and other issues, are getting addressed through that process. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer it on behalf of Maintenance Area 9. Otherwise, thank you and have a good morning.
All right, thank you. We're going to hear from you in a bit, right?
Through the chair.
It's always fascinating to hear these stories about the history. Yeah. Member Griggle.
Yeah. For Mark List, my question is that some of these items do, as you stated, predate the system. And this particular wall looks like it's pretty sturdy in regards to where it's at. Nonetheless, my question, I guess, is, does this prohibit the 8499 from being, this stretch of the levee? Does that have any play in that?
Reminder that this particular area has a system-wide improvement framework in process. So we have a letter of intent that was approved by the federal government, the Corps, and we have active status in PL 8499, which we obviously want.
Right. Very
high population protected by this levee. So we do want to ensure that if there is damage, and there has been damage, and in a section that the Corps was already doing work on, the Corps actually fixed that. We were going to turn in a PL 8499 from 2023, didn't need to. The Corps project location fixed that as part of the Sacramento River East Levee project because they were already working in that area. So from a practical perspective, we're covered by PL 8499. Okay. We're active status for City of Sacramento, MA9 up into the American River Left Bank system. So this whole system is active status, which we want.
Exactly.
We want to maximize federal government investment if there is storm damage, and we anticipate through time there will be additional storm. So it makes sense for us to do that.
So that's my concern. That's my main concern, is that it stays active in that program.
We need to keep making progress on that program. That letter of intent SWIFT process requires us as maintainers, state maintainer, DWR, and American River and City of Sacramento on this system to continue marching forward, making progress. And as the chart of comparisons from 2010 to the 2021 inspection date, I think this one was, those differences show that progress is being had in this particular area. And so highest priority items are things that are highest flood risk items. Handle those, deal with erosion, bank caving, deal with settlement, deal with animal control, things that can cause failure modes. And as the board staff has time, get to encroachments that are highest priority. And
so the other picture of the retaining wall, it didn't look as good.
no, it doesn't.
It looked like there was a little sloughing, and that wall isn't as straight. So right. What's the deal on that? I mean, that's got to be a risk, and
we'll
maybe
push that to the board's enforcement section.
Okay. Yeah.
As a maintainer, state maintainer or local maintainer, there's really no legal action we can take. We maintain the levee around the encroachments, but we can't physically do anything with them. That's the board's jurisdiction. So we'll, again, identify those as items that we would need to address through the enforcement process.
So maybe this next question is for our staff in regards to enforcement, is do we have a lot of these kind of situations where they predate requirements for, okay, I heard something over here. It must be that we have a lot of those. Okay, I was just wondering how we handle that.
Well,
with great attention and efficiency to try to get it fixed.
It's on the record. There you go.
Yeah.
So-
yes. I have a lot of faith in our enforcement section.
Thank
They
you.
never quit.
Oh, I do too.
As
But
ownership
they oughta.
changes, that may require new permit requirements for that encroachment. So that's kind of how a way it can get brought into the permitting. And then we would be checking for design characteristics to meet standards from there going forward.
Thank you.
So I got a follow-up question.
I'm a countryman.
Because this whole LOI process, everything to finally get complete certification for PL 8499. Would we have that wall? Now, I agree with Mark. It doesn't look to me like it's a flood control concern. But in order to get qualified ultimately for PL 8499, what would we have to do? Get that permitted? Would that then solve the problem if it was permitted?
That would be the long-term goal, but as Mark stated earlier, for this area, for MA9, there's currently a LOI SWIFT, which draws out a long-term plan solution to get those encroachments addressed over time. And so when those, as long as there's a plan, a SWIFT in place to speak to that, that's how they
Yeah,
work
we
forward
have it
going
till
to.
then, but I'm talking about ultimately, when the SWIFT is over. That it would be a permitted item and then the
Yes.
Corps would have reviewed it and bought off on the permit, and then that would solve the problem.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
That's the purpose of a SWIFT. Identify what you need to do,
Mhm.
get you in there. And it's an excellent process because it puts systems that have been on their own into the 8499. And then over time, often these things can't be done in a month or even a year. But with the SWIFT, the effort is required. Just they'll issue their money. We always work on that. Okay. Any other questions, board members? Anyone in the room? No, you're all afraid of me now. Anyone with a hand up? Any hands up? No? Any more remarks, Mr. Zubair?
None from me, but if there are from any
Mr. Gonzalez?
alumnates, I believe that's all.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sirs, thank you. Eight B, we're going to have some information provided to us on the status and strategy of public law 8499 rehab. And that would be Mr. Jonathan Yao. Can't hide from us.
One moment, Madam President, I would just like to address anybody who's presenting today. You'll want to stand so close to the mic that it feels awkward in order for everybody online to hear you and the people in the back to hear. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much for demonstrating that. Did you see that?
I will try my best.
So far, so good.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. President Dolan, board members, I'm Jonathan Yao. I'm the Emergency Management Chief at Sacramento District. I believe this is the first time that I'm actually seeing you guys in person. So it's kind of nice to see you all beyond the virtual venues that we have. I'm here to talk about our rehab program and give you guys a little bit of a preview over what is eligible coming up, and I'll also talk about our strategy moving forward.
Well, us guys are waiting to hear it.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so this picture at the very top, I'll kind of reference in the next slide, but this is a picture of the damage from our 2023 winter storms. And it affects the YOLO bypass I-80 overpass. Okay, so as a result of the 2023 winter storms, we received 216 discrete flood damage rehab requests. As of the beginning of this week, we have 17 damage sites among 6 levee systems in the Sacramento Basin that are confirmed eligible. And in the San Joaquin and Delta regions, we've confirmed 10 damage sites among 2 levee systems that are officially eligible for rehab assistance. So we do have some incomplete investigations, and as of the last 48 hours, we've seen a little bit of development there. And so another levee system and one other damaged site has been determined eligible, and I'll kind of go over that in a little bit, but I won't get into too many details there. So the magnitude of damage at each site varies. But according to my knowledge, we don't have any damages that pose a risk of imminent failure. We do, however, have 2 sites that are of high consequence. And so the high consequence, meaning, there's a lot of economic damage or, population at risk in that and behind the levied area. And so the 2 damaged sites is that I-80 overpass that I had mentioned, because that affects more than just that levied area. That affects, economics throughout the region. And so any kind of closure to that highway due to failure or construction, that will affect the region. And then within the last 48 hours, we've also determined that the old Sacramento flood wall is also eligible, and that has a high consequence area as well. So we're also, part of the reason why we've taken so long to determine eligibility is we are really looking for ways to ensure damages, eligible damages, can be included into that rehab program. So it takes time to conduct this analysis, and using that old Sac flood wall as an example, we didn't have proper documentation on hand to make that quick call of whether it's eligible. So because of the high consequence area that it's in, we decided to, do our due diligence so that we can do some research and ensure that we're not making a hasty determination of eligibility. So in that particular site, I'm excited that we made the right call to delay that determination so that we can actually include it into the rehab program. And then there are a variety of other reasons for ineligibility as well. Some of the examples consist of, damages that are outside the levee prism, non-event related damages, and being inactive in their rehab program. Additionally, some damages lie within the scope of other projects, such as Sac Bank erosion, which those particular sites may see a repair within the next year or 2. And usually those sites are also, sites that are not at risk of imminent failure. We've sent letters for 76 sites that are officially ineligible. Remaining letters will be forthcoming within the next couple weeks as we finalize our list of eligible sites. After receiving the letters of ineligibility, the board, we welcome your comments on that. We welcome any requests for reconsideration, but please be prudent about these requests. Some of these locations we've determined to be ineligible based on the information we have on hand, so that we can get on to the higher consequence damaged locations. So recognizing that we are working in a hasty manner here. Currently, we have 2 project managers, and we brought on a third who will be part of my team to manage the project delivery teams that are working on these project information reports and getting these rehabs executed. So I'm actively in the process of kind of reinvigorating the emergency work aspect of our program. I'm trying to instill into our district that we don't want to let perfection get in the way of good enough. And so what I mean by that is, these are repairs to existing projects, and so we don't want to overthink it. At least that's where I'm trying to impress upon them. And so with that, also, we have 3 levee systems with damages in 2023 that can be added to the 2019 damages. We can add those damages as an addendum, and what that means is we no longer have to pursue getting those PIRs approved by the lengthy approval review process. So at least we can reduce some of that effort there. We're also going to be pursuing a sister district's contracting vehicle. That's the Rapid Disaster Infrastructure Contract, and that'll allow us to expedite the contracting process. And so normally our contracting process takes, a minimum of 120 days to get the work contracted. The RDI contract out of the Omaha district, they are accustomed to working with FEMA. They're also accustomed to working with very rapid levee rehabs. And they should be able to guarantee that we can execute and finish construction by the winter of 2024. We still need to do our part as a district to ensure that these project information reports are complete and make sure that our designs and our considerations are accounted for properly. That's before we submit, our project information report to Omaha District. So with that, we also need full cooperation from all stakeholders, to include, landholders, landowners. Any land that we use in the project will generally be associated with, temporary easements for access or for staging and borrow sites. So I just want to highlight that as well. We're trying to repair these. We'll treat some levee systems on a case-by-case basis if it requires a more extensive repair. But in general, most of these repairs will be just, repairing the damage and ensuring that the level of flood protection is restored. So that kind of concludes my presentation. The next slide is really for your reference.
Point it back.
This one. Okay.
Oh,
This slide is for your reference. This is just a current status update for our 2017, 2019, and 2023 projects. And like I said, within the last 48 hours, it's been updated. So pending any questions from you all.
thank you. Member Bosler's first, then Member Countryman.
No, I just want to thank you for coming today, and we look forward to working with you. I just had a couple of questions because I'm sort of the new one on the board. When you say ineligible prior damage or ineligible federal channel, that's mainly on the San Joaquin, can you talk a little bit about kind of the mix match of like what's being submitted to you and why you're not able to approve that?
Sure. So there's a lot of nuances that go along with those that kind of terminology, and so by prior damage, I'm really trying to shift how we communicate and message that. So prior damage, according to our regulations, we are not supposed to affect repairs on damages which we have already discovered has occurred in the past. And so what I am trying to change for that is call it non-event related damages. So our rehab program is really meant to address damages that are caused by the flood. So an example would be, let's say in 2020, we do an inspection, we discover a 40-foot hole, and we don't know what caused it. But we don't know, but it wasn't caused by any flood for, a 2023 flood. And then in 2023, we go back and do an assessment because there's flooding. We're trying to repair flood damages. We find out that that 40-foot hole is still there. that would be considered non-event related damages, because we knew that hole was there in 2020 and it's the same exact size and nothing has changed. However, if that hole has increased to 60 feet, then we'll take a look at that and call it flood damage. So we are well within our authority to effect repairs on that kind of damage. So going through the records, 216, it does take a little bit of time to make that kind of analysis, because we are doing our due diligence to look into previous inspections and records, whether or not parts of the flood control work has actually been incorporated into the federal authorization. So yeah, apologies on our end, but it does take a little bit of time.
And what about the channel notation?
The channel is a little bit more complicated. Let's see, an example was there was damage to the channel. And so within our authorities, we can restore the channel capacity if there has been something that affects the volume that that channel can accept. And so we have issues with those records. We essentially have to, in our regulations, we may restore channel capacity. We need to understand the timeline of events from, the last 10 years or so to really understand what was that channel capacity before the flood. We don't necessarily always know that. And so we need to understand what is the channel capacity before the flood and what is it right now. And we need to restore that channel capacity.
It may have just been lack of records, and that was the only issue that was under submission.
Yes.
Okay.
Additionally, some other examples that we've seen is erosion to bank erosion, and that may not be a structural component to the levee, and it also may not be the bank itself is not part of the federal project, so that is not that itself is not part of the rehab authorities either. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you said it takes time and it's complex, I get it. Member Countryman?
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your lean forward in a saddle approach to this. It's refreshing.
Move your mic up.
Oh, on the, how many of these ones that were not approved were because of economic, they don't meet the economic benefit, BC ratio greater than 1?
Typically, the eligibility analysis, we don't look at that yet. Once we've determined that it's active in the program and that it's if the repair is more than $15,000 worth of a repair, which is generally most of them, we will move it into the next phase, and then we'll start coming up with repair alternatives or repair solutions. And along that path, when we discover the benefit to cost ratio, then we make that kind of call. But for the most part, any of these that we've deemed ineligible, we have not considered benefit to cost ratio.
Oh, that's good, because I don't have to yell at you then. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, board members? Member Johnson?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate this. My question is also about the sites that were deemed ineligible, and I appreciate you saying that there's at least some opportunity for back and forth with folks who think, maybe the record isn't complete, and that's why you're making that preliminary determination. I wonder what you can say about how much back and forth about that there is. Like, do people to what extent did people get your answer and say, oh, you're right, it's not eligible, versus in between circumstance, coming back with more information, still working on it, how many are still being worked on? And if we have a sense of places where folks just fundamentally disagree about something, and you're still working on that, or have had to make a determination over somebody's really strong objection.
Sorry, are you asking how often are we doing?
How much back and forth? The people who got the ineligibility determinations, by and large, they say, okay, yeah, you're right, or it's still an ongoing discussion, or there's an actual disagreement about that. How contentious is this process?
I don't think it's contentious at all, at least not at the moment. There's actually 2 sites which we are already reconsidering based off of that original 76 that I had mentioned. So, we're having conversations about it. Ultimately, it'll be a group decision because I don't believe in making unilateral decisions on our part. So, we want to ensure that everyone agrees that this is the reason why it's ineligible, and ensure that the local maintaining agencies have a way to get out of whatever kind of concerns they have.
So the group includes the entity that received the letter they're ineligible?
Yes.
Thank you. I really appreciate that answer, and good balance between needing to keep things moving quickly and be able to make decisions while also allowing some room for back and forth in places where it might not be super clear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You said you were happy to actually see us. I'm happy to actually see you as well.
Thank you.
Just the interchange, and the breaks show me it's a good idea to be in person. Any other
Agreed.
questions? Audience in the room? Yes. This is
morning.
our encroachment enforcement guru.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Angeles Calizo, manage the enforcement section for the board. I just wanted to thank Jonathan here for giving this presentation, and I also wanted to offer a few words just for perspective and for awareness for the board. So board staff has been regularly coordinating with the Army Corps of Engineers, Jonathan's group, actually since the system late last year, the fall, we began regular coordination meetings. Those conversations continue. They're biweekly meetings where we're getting information. Again, a lot of things are sort of dynamic and evolving, as you've heard from Jonathan himself. And the other thing that we want to make sure too is we're being transparent. So we're making sure that the information that we are receiving is also being communicated to the local maintaining agencies. Board Member Johnson kind of spoke about these situations. How many times do we have this back and forth? I think as Jonathan spoke to is exactly correct. There's very much an open communication that exists between us and the Corps and our local partners, where there are opportunities for additional information that is requested. That information is sought and is provided. If additional meetings or site visits are necessary, then those are coordinated and taken place. I'd like to thank Jenny too, who's taken over, and she's the primary lead for the rehab assistance, but she's been sort of on the on the ball, taking over as requests come in. They're prioritized. They really take highest priority for us. We understand the risk and the need to respond to those requests quickly. And we're also working with the real estate branch as well from the department. They are providing the real estate services for the rehabilitation program. So Jonathan spoke about the right of entry permissions that will need to be taken part of. Solos as well as are going to be coordinated. So we are very conscientious about the expedited timeline that the Corps is aiming to do. And you can be sure that staff is working diligently to make sure that we are doing everything that we can on our end to meet those deadlines and make sure that there are no hiccups along the way. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward with those comments. If we had silence, we'd think, well, maybe staff should do something. You said staff is. Someone raise their hand? Oh, I'm so surprised. Megan Nagy. You're not here today, but we'll let you talk.
Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I know you're shocked that I am going to say a few words. But first, I'd like to thank Jonathan and board staff for their efforts to get the PL 8499 moving in a direction of construction for this summer. I know how big of a feat that is. The program's not an easy one to execute, but it's important. And so we appreciate their efforts. In that regard, we do realize that inevitably at some sites there will be difficulties, whether that's with landowners, relocations, just access, various issues. So we just encourage that the locals get engaged quickly, consistently, and early. So the sooner we know which sites are eligible, the sooner we can engage and that we can help make sure that we are successful for construction this summer. So I could just ask if, I realize there's probably a reluctance to share which sites that are eligible until they determine fully which ones are ineligible, but please engage us quickly. Thank you.
I don't know if your camera's on, but our USACE representative is nodding.
Yes,
Yes.
we will send the final eligibility determinations within the next 2 weeks. The letters themselves, the official letters for ineligibility will be sent out within the next 2 weeks, and then we'll share the spreadsheet with the board staff very soon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else with a hand up? We miss seeing you, Megan. But yeah, thanks for your comments, always. You're a great advocate for the local entities. Any other hands? Anyone else? We can move on to the next item then. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, just a deep breath. We're gonna go on. This next one is probably not 10 minutes. Just Michael. We're moving to item 9, which are the items from the Department of Water Resources to the board. The first is what I think is submitted. We received a written report of monthly activities of the Department of Water Resources and various other things going on. It's a useful report. We used to have presentations, and I think they now understand we do our homework. But I just want to be sure that someone didn't want to raise a question. No one's that brave. Okay, item 9B, the 2023 Inspection and Local Maintaining Agency Report, which we received 10 days ago. This is it. This is I took it to the gym. So I'm going to ask our board staff, President Shotwell, to introduce this item. Mr. Shotwell, did I see you leaving? No, you're pretending that this is the Oscar. You're going through the whole aisle. Okay.
Waiting for me.
It's still morning. We'll
It
keep
is.
with
Good
that.
morning, President Dolan and members of the board. I'm Preston Shotwell, manager of the board's inspection section. I'm here to introduce DWR's flood project and inspection and assessment section as well. They are here to give their presentation for the annual inspection LMA report. So we use this report in many ways. First, the results of the LMA summaries are useful in determining which area, I'm sorry, let me slow down.
That's fine. Take your time.
Where maintenance issues continue to be a problem. This will be vital information as our upcoming deferred encroachment compliance section gets started, and will help continue to retain or regain compliance with PLA 499 rehabilitation program that you just heard from. Second, the output of their utility crossing inspection program is an extremely useful database that we rely on daily for the status of pipes and crossings throughout the state plan of flood control whether they are encroachments or system features as well. Their data links directly back with our permitting database so that we can cross-reference all the records associated with the pipe. And finally, the designated floodway inspection results help us by providing data to support our efforts in obtaining resources to support that program and be effective in enforcing our regulations in those designated floodways. So outside of that inspection report, I wanted to say that the board's inspection team relies on their talented inspectors to help cover the workload of our field inspecting and tracking newly permitted encroachments or newly permitted projects. Our group is small and covers a lot of ground to ensure that newly permitted projects are completed in accordance with the permit conditions and approved plans. And we could not cover all the ground that we do without their help. So in the past year, they've stepped up and we've stepped up our coordination efforts to make sure that permitted projects are tracked appropriately and nothing goes by without us staying on top of it. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll hand it over to Wade Wiley, the manager of the Flood Project Inspection and Assessment Branch.
Thank you for that intro and background. That's helpful. Mr. Wiley, good morning.
Good morning, President Dolan, board members. My name is Wade Wiley, and I'm the manager for the Flood Project Inspection and Assessment section. Today, myself and senior engineers Sterling York and Kaveh Zamane will be presenting our 2023 inspection and local maintaining agency report.
Okay.
Is this going to work for me or? There we go. As usual, I'm going to provide a little background on our authority to do inspections, what it is we inspect, and how the report sharing the results of those inspections has evolved over time. Under authority of Water Code 8360 and 8371 and 8370, I missed that one, DWR performs a verification inspection of the maintenance of the Sacramento River flood control project levees performed by the local responsible agencies, or LMAs. And we report that to the board and the Corps annually on the status of the levee maintenance accomplished under the provisions of Title 33. That's the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 33. There's no specific water code that requires us to do the San Joaquin rivers, but DWR has inspected and reported on that system for as long as I've been involved with this and further back. So these inspections determine for both river basins if local maintaining agencies are performing their legal and statutory responsibilities pursuant to Water Code 12642 and 12657, and are meeting their legal obligations under assurance agreements with the state to operate and maintain their flood protection projects. The Flood Project Inspection and Assessment section also performs other inspections based on a 2008 agreement with the Central Valley Flood Protection Board and provides an avenue for LMAs to comply with the LMA reporting requirements under California Water Code 9140 and 9141. In short, what we do is inspect and report on the state plan of flood control features. Every year, in a typical year, we inspect approximately 1,600 miles of state plan of flood control levees, and we do that 2 times. Once a year, we inspect 26 channels, 56 pumping plants, 56 structures, 13 pumping plants, 1,500 utility crossings or thereabouts, a significant number of erosion sites in the San Joaquin. We review aerial imagery for 32 designated floodways, and we provide reporting for 84 LMAs. I used to say many years ago, I could say a long time ago, all these different programs that we do were presented to the board at different times throughout the year as we completed them. And at the request of the board, we've combined all of those separate reports into this one report. And that report has evolved over time. We've added a designated floodway section, an encroachment section, We've expanded our utility crossing inspection section. And now we have that digital version ADA compliant. Having provided that background, I would like to share what we'll be talking about in this year's presentation. Today, Sterling York will be providing an overview of the contents of the report. He will discuss the contents of the LMA summary profiles, review the encroachment section, and then he'll present the results of this year's inspections. After that, Kaveh Zamani will come up and talk about our LMA reporting results, and he will also present this year's utility crossing inspection results. After that, I'll come up and wrap up our presentation with a discussion of some of our other section activities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sterling.
Mr. York, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Wade. Good morning, President Dolan and the rest of the members of the board. My name, again, is Sterling York. I am one of the 2 senior engineers for the flood project inspection unit, and I help supervise the inspection work being done by DWR. Mike Engelman, the manager of Inspection Unit B, is also here today, and he will be providing the necessary support during our presentation. This report brings together the results of many programs from both DWR and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Today, I will be providing an overview of the content of this report, and then I will review the results of the inspections. And I'd like to point out that included in this report are the maintenance inspection results for the levees and encroachments, the channels, and the structures. Also, the results of DWR San Joaquin Erosion Survey, the designated floodway inspection, the LMA annual reporting results, and the results of the utility crossing inspection program referred to as USEP. Some of the other programs included in this report are the Sacramento River Bank Erosion Survey, DWR's Flood System Repair Project, and the Corps' PL 8499 eligibility. Together, the information provided by these programs help the inspection unit determine and rate the quality of maintenance that the levee maintaining agencies are providing. The report concludes with the flood project inspection and assessment section activities and accomplishments throughout the last year, as well as the LMA summary profiles located in the appendices. The highlights of the inspection program are summarized in the upfront portion of the report, but the core of the results are shown in the LMA summary profiles located in the appendices A, B, and C. These summary profiles provide one location for each LMA to review all the data gathered from the many programs that contribute to the results of the inspection report. This includes the data results from the inspection section, the flood project branch, and the Army Corps of Engineers. The format remains the same from year to year, but the summary profiles are updated with the new information each year. In addition to the LMA's overall maintenance ratings, these profiles contain other useful data, including the LMA's contact information, the results of the structures and channel inspections, as well as DWR's core erosion surveys. I'm sorry, DWR and the Corps' erosion surveys. The combination of these results gives us the ability to assess the levee threats and give recommendations on how the LMAs can improve their maintenance. The summary profiles also include the LMA reporting results. This is where the LMAs can report their maintenance activities, and Kaveh will cover this a little bit more thoroughly later on in this presentation. Before we move on to the results of the inspection, I would like to highlight the encroachment section of the report, which helps identify them and their differences. There are over 4,500 non-compliant encroachments identified in the levee inspections. These are broken into 2 different types, either maintenance or enforcement. Maintenance enforcements for these, for the most part, are issues that can be managed by the LMA's maintenance programs, such as system pipes, down trees, trash, and debris. Whereas enforcement type encroachments are usually privately owned and typically consist of privately owned structures, pipes, fencing, pruning piles, and landscaping. Only the maintenance type of encroachments are assessed as part of the overall rating. 2023 was the last year that the LMA responsible pipes will not be assessed as part of the overall inspection rating, and they will be rated during this fall's inspections. And Kaveh will discuss this in a little bit more detail shortly. Now let's take a closer at each type of encroachment. There are just over 1,400 maintenance encroachments identified in the inspection report. As we can see from this slide, over 3/4 of the maintenance encroachments are pipes. The remaining 20% are items that can be normally corrected through the LMA's routine maintenance program. Looking at the enforcement encroachment issues, there are approximately 17 more enforcement encroachments than the maintenance encroachments found in the system. Here we see that 30% of the enforcement encroachments are privately owned pipes, 17% are fences, 16% are landscape issues. The remaining 37% are privately owned items, which include pruning piles, ditches, buildings, crops, and other items like stairways and swimming pools. And I do want to point out that although the LMA is the first line of defense for these issues, oftentimes they're unable to correct them without the assistance of the board's enforcement section. Now that we have covered the encroachments, I'd like to move on to the overall ratings of the inspections. Here we have the overall rating for the different inspections of the flood protection system for 2023. This table has the results of the levees, channels, structures, pumping plants within the state plan of flood control. Now let's look at each of these components separately. Looking at the levee inspection results, we can see this year's ratings are fairly similar to the last 5-year ratings. Looking at the graph, there were 36 levees that received an acceptable rating, and 20 of those have received the same acceptable rating over at least the last 5 years. 30 of the levees received a minimally acceptable rating, but I would like to point out that out of the several LMAs with a minimally acceptable rating, they had a small percentage of unacceptable issues. And if they would have focused and addressed those unacceptable issues, their ratings would have improved to an acceptable rating. The remaining 40 levies received an unacceptable rating, and unfortunately 23 of those 40 levies have received that same unacceptable rating for at least the last 5 years. As in previous years, the most common maintenance deficiency has to do with vegetation management. This year's result shows that 21 of the 40 levee areas received unacceptable ratings, and they could have improved to an acceptable rating if they would have improved their vegetation management. Now moving on to the channel inspection results. The 26 channels we report on are non-levee project channels specifically called out in the water code in the Corps' O&M manuals. Our inspectors evaluate these channels at specific locations where there are restrictions to the channels, and this occurs mainly at the bridges and road crossings. Vegetation, debris, erosion, and other factors that impact the capacity of the channels are used in the rating analysis for each channel. And again, the main issue driving the channel's ratings is again vegetation. The 2023 channel inspection results stayed fairly consistent within the last several years. This year, there were no unacceptable ratings. Next, we have the results of the structures. Structure maintenance has been somewhat consistent over the last 5 years also, with a slight fluctuation between the acceptable and minimally acceptable ratings. Vandalism concrete deterioration, and vegetation is what has led to those minimally acceptable ratings. The one unacceptable structure this year was due to some erosion around the head wall and deteriorating pipes. Now, looking at the results from the pumping plants, 12 were rated acceptable and one was unacceptable. The one unacceptable pumping plant over the last 2 years was due to vandalism and theft. Our inspectors also perform an inspection of 32 designated floodways within the Sacramento and San Joaquin Drainage Basin on behalf of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. Inspectors use the latest aerial imagery to perform floodway inspections from Google Earth. They identify the encroachments that may impact the capacity of the floodways or require a board encroachment permit. With the new aerial imagery from last year, there were 279 encroachments identified and added to the report. This brings the total number of encroachments identified in the designated floodway to nearly 8,400. This pie chart shows the permitted versus the unpermitted encroachments in the designated floodway. When we look closer, we can see that out of the nearly 8,400 encroachments identified, approximately 8,000 of those require board permit. Of those, only 12% have a board permit. The remaining 88% do not. I would like to point out that many of these encroachments may have existed before the adoption of the designated floodway, and it is difficult really to know which one of these encroachments were new or existed before the designated floodway were adopted. Nearly 50% of all the encroachments identified are structures. The remaining encroachments consist of crops, utilities, and other items like fences, equipment, and debris piles. That brings me to the end of my portion of the presentation. Are there any questions at this time? All right, if there are no further questions, I'd like to turn the time over to Kaveh, who will present the LMA reporting and the USEP program. Kaveh?
Thank you, very helpful. Good morning.
Thank you,
Nope,
Sterling.
good afternoon.
Yeah, all my rehearsals was with good morning, so it's hard for me. I'll be already past 12. Thank you, Sterling. Okay, thank you, President Dolan and members of the board. My name is Kaveh Zamani. Let me just go to the next one. I'm a senior engineer and manager for the local maintaining agency assessment unit of DWR. At this point, I would like to provide an update on the LMA reporting program. I will start with a little background on the program, and then I will cover the results from 2023 submittal and discuss how that information is compiled and used. The LMA reporting program was established by Assembly Bill 156 in 2007 and is codified in California Water Code sections 9140 and 9141. It requires annual reporting on operation and maintenance activities for project levies as well as for certain non-project levies. Water Code 9140 requires that the LMA report annually to DWR, and 9141 requires that DWR in turn report the information to the Central Valley Flood Protection Board. The intent is to obtain information beyond what is observed by DWR inspectors. We are looking for the local operators' perspective on their problems with the levees and their priorities for the levee maintenance, in addition to the information on the costs. This one, okay. There are 5 parts to the information we request from the LMAs. In part 1, we ask for information that is relevant to the levee's condition or performance, such as vegetation issues, encroachment, sediment accumulation, and berm erosion. In part 2, we ask for information relevant to levee integrity and known conditions that might impair or compromise the level of flood protection provided by the levee, such as seepage, boil, borehole, levee erosion, levee instability, cracks, and other kind of deficiencies. In part 3, we asked for summary of maintenance performed during the previous fiscal year along with the associated cost for the maintenance. This is also the part in which LMAs have the opportunity to provide responses to DWR inspection items, which the DWR levy inspectors see during the next inspection cycle. In part 4, we ask for a list of maintenance activities planned for the current fiscal year, as well as the estimated cost for the operation and maintenance of the levy in the current fiscal year. Finally, in part 5, we ask for supporting information and any other readily available information that is in the record of the LMA relevant to the condition or maintenance of the levees. So LMAs are required to submit the 5-part reporting to DWR by September 30th each year. This year, 96% of the geographically levied areas that are required to report submitted their reports to DWR. Every one of those LMAs that submitted provided complete report by responding to all 5 parts of the reporting program. The remaining areas were simply not submitted to DWR by the responsible LMAs. There is somewhat a typical over most of the last 5 years. There is one area that consistently doesn't report because it doesn't have an LMA. The other areas that do not report seem to fluctuate from one LMA to another each year. For those areas that did submit report, we can use part 3 to provide a summary of maintenance activities performed during the previous fiscal year and planned for this year. As in previous years, this year, vegetation control was the dominant activity, followed by rodent control, levee patrolling, levee crown maintenance, and levee repair. And to be clear, this chart shows the percentage of the areas that indicated they would perform these activities. It is not an indication of how much budget is spent on those activities. Because budget vary from LMA to LMA and how much they spend on each activity varies year to year, it can be difficult to generalize the LMA's spending. However, using data submitted by LMAs in parts 3 and 4, the program was able to calculate the average percentage of the budget that the LMAs are spending on each key activity. This chart shows the average percentage of budget spent for fiscal years 2019 to 2023 and shows the planned average percentage of budget for fiscal year 2024, current fiscal year. For the years shown, the largest budget spent was on vegetation management and it's between 32 to 50%. The second largest average percentage of the budget was spent in the other category at between 15 to 35%. The other category consists of miscellaneous costs not directly associated with maintenance, such as administrative, equipment, inspection, engineering, and insurance costs. All other maintenance activities appear to be receiving on average less than 10% of LMA's budget over the last 4 years. Other budget information specific to each LMA, including the cost per levee mile, is provided in the summary profiles in appendixes A, B, and C of the report. Now I would like to provide an update on the Utility Crossing Inspection Program, or USIP for short. I will briefly discuss the background of the program, including the last 5-year inspection cycle. Then I will explain the ratings that USIP applies to each inspected pipe, and then I will share the results of this year's inspection. The USEP program was created to identify and inspect all the utility crossing passing through the state plan of flood control levees in both Sacramento and San Joaquin River flood control projects. The first phase of this program, which was called the desk study, identified and documented utility crossing within the system. The desk study gathered this information from O&M manuals, as-built, levy logs, permits, and other records, and when originally finished in 2012, contained approximately 7,500 utility crossings. Of those crossings, about 34% were identified as drainage pipes, 31% as irrigation pipes, and the remaining 35% were other types of crossings such as electrical conjugates, pressurized gas line, drinking water lines, sewer lines, and communication conduits. After identifying those crossings during the desk study, inspectors began the field verification and inspection phases. The inspection phases started in 2012 and took 4 years for 4 full-time staff to inspect all 7,500 pipes. After completing that first round of inspection in 2015, the program continued to improve its data, perform targeted inspection, and research additional crossings. In 2019, the program started a new 5-year inspection cycle and finished it in 2023. After 5 years of inspection, the team has inspected over 7,600 crossings and covered the whole system. The team is on track to start a new 5-year cycle in 2024. Each year, after the field inspection work is completed, a more detailed review of the inspection record is performed. Each record is reviewed and adjusted to meet the current standards of the USEP records. And during this process, new records are created to account for pipes that were replaced in kind and for other administrative reasons. As a result, the total number of records in the database grows each year and currently stands at approximately 7,900 records. Out of those records, some of them are removed outside the levee or buried under the levee prism, but they are kept in the database for administrative reasons. Pipe inspectors are using a slightly different rating system than that is used by the levee inspectors. USEP rates pipes as either urgent, non-urgent, or no action needed. Urgent pipes are those with a severe pipe integrity or levee integrity issues, such as pipes with corrosion holes, missing or broken flap gates, or leak causing erosion of the levee prism. Non-urgent ratings are for pipes with a less severe issues like missing appurtenances or minor leaks. The non-urgent rating is also being used to identify pipes with non-integrity issues. This could be for a missing permit or for some other administrative reasons that USEP is tracking. No action needed ratings are for pipes that the team didn't find any issues with. Before being included in the levee inspection reports, the USEP ratings are converted into the standard levee inspection ratings, which are unacceptable, minimally acceptable, and acceptable. Next slide. In 2023, USEP was able to inspect almost 300 pipes within the LMAs identified on this slide. Final result for 2023 shows that of those pipes, 5% of them were rated as urgent, 55% of them were rated as non-urgent, and 40% were rated as no action needed. Since it was started in 2012, USEP has inspected or reviewed every known pipes within the system and assigned it a rating. Including this year's result, we see that 6% of the pipes in the system are rated as urgent, 61% rated as non-urgent, and 33% are rated as no action needed. As Sterling mentioned earlier, system pipes, also known as LMA responsible pipes, will begin being included in the overall rating of the LMAs this year. Previously, those pipes were rated and shown in the reports, but those ratings were not included in the overall rating for the LMA. In preparation for this change, LMAs were notified and provided with a list of pipes considered LMA responsible. Also, they were given a grace period to challenge any pipes in their inventory that they felt were incorrectly identified as a LMA responsible pipe. We expect that there will be some impact on LMA rating in 2024 as a result of this change. Initial analysis shows some currently A-rated LMAs will see their rating change to an M star if they don't address their unacceptable rated LMA responsible pipes in 2024. Okay, that was end of my presentation part. So if you have a question, please ask that question. Otherwise, I would pass it to Wade for concluding remarks and other activities of our section. Thank you very much.
What action? So we've been doing this now for quite a few years. How are we doing? How are we turning the unacceptable pipes to acceptable or minimally acceptable? Is there any progress on that?
So, okay. Show that.
Good afternoon, President Dolan. I'm going to try to take a stab, at least from a board's perspective, in sort of the interaction that occurs between our section and Caves section related to pipes. You specifically spoke to pipes. So as you know, the enforcement section has taken on a lead on the prioritizing pipes. So focusing on the urgent pipes that are part of the system. So again, Caves presentation covers LMA responsible pipes and private irrigation ones. So we're focusing on the private irrigation pipes. So we do, and our team has been doing annual data transfers between our respective sections. So as they complete their annual assessments and update their database, then we essentially receive a report and we're updating our database as well. Our systems are not integrated at the time, but ideally at some point, that would be kind of where we want to go, have our databases integrated so that the flow of information essentially happens, minimizing some of the human error that happens often. So just with pipes themselves, every month there is a progress and there's a report that the enforcement section provides to you that essentially outlines the amount of enforcement issues and enforcement cases that get addressed. As each of one of those enforcement cases, particularly since they're pipes, they're priority one for us. So when those are addressed and they're taken through the entire process of resolution, which oftentimes the corrective action, meaning the actual repairs that are necessary to bring a pipe or a facility from an urgent to a non-urgent or no action needed, can be rather quickly. So that can often happen. The actual work can happen in a matter of 2 to 3 months, depending on this condition and response that we get from the landowner. What oftentimes takes a little bit longer on our end is sort of more the administrative or the paperwork that we have to do afterwards. So receiving documentation from the water compaction test, other supporting documentation of the repair, and then processing the supporting permits that would essentially formalize the ownership and future responsibility of that party. So that often takes a little bit longer after that. But once that all happens, that all gets in the system and gets transferred to Cabet's group. So we'll make sure that the information is being consistent. So how many are we addressing a year? I think at the last report, the end of the year report that we provided to you, we had roughly 24 pipes that were addressed this last year in the 2023 cycle. Considering that we had a lot of changes and other things, I think that's a sizable progress. Ideally, we want to make more progress, but we are working as fast as we can addressing those issues and working through that priority system.
Well, when you say addressed, was it complete? Was it fixed? You're
Yeah.
saying 24 were fixed?
Correct. So when the numbers that are reported to you, those are issues that have essentially completed the entire cycle. So it's the repair has been completed and all the necessary permissions and documentation is essentially complete. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that.
I think another,
Mr. Wiley, are you the other sections activities?
I am the other section's activities.
I'm gonna say good afternoon to you. Clock moved since the last time you were there.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Wade Wiley again. So just on this, Board Member Countryman, I think when you look at the overall system, this doesn't probably change a whole lot. And I think every year when we go out and we do inspections, we tend to, we find the similar rate of urgence and non-urgence.
So 5% isn't, that's manageable, it seems like. So you're saying like we replace a flap gate that was missing or something, but next time we go out, some other flap gate's missing. Is that why the percentage stays like it is?
I think so. I do think DWR's deferred maintenance program is making a lot of progress on sleeving pipes that are questionable or replacing pipes that fall into that urgent category. So I know DWR is making good progress there. A subset.
That's helpful because I mean, I just look at the numbers and it looks like nothing's happening, but things are happening. It's a churning kind of a thing. It's ongoing.
Yeah, as things are addressed, new things crop up.
Yeah, that's good news, I think.
So now that we've provided the results of our main programs, I'd like to highlight some of the many other activities that our sections are involved with and doing. For many years now, we've been collecting what we used to call street view imagery, and now we're calling it levee view imagery. We've collected basically 1,600 miles of levee view imagery, which allows our mini users to be able to do virtual site visits from their desktops. And we're trying to update that imagery on a cycle that, is probably once every 2 to 5 years, depending on our ability to do that. Another activity that we collaborate with the board on is the permitting program. As Preston mentioned earlier, our inspectors are working with board staff to ensure that construction projects are complying with the conditions in their permits and that we're documenting our results from those inspections in the board's database, and that database is updated with accurate location and information for those encroachments. I got no luck with this thing. We're also leading the effort to improve flood fight training and skills throughout the state. This year, our inspectors, along with our flood operations section group, taught 30 classes for probably more than 850 participants, and we're still teaching classes this month and in the month of December. In 2023, our section staff were activated for nearly 6 months in response to the winter storms and the snowmelt runoff event that we had. And staff were either in the field responding to incidents as flood fight specialists, or they were in the flood operations center managing the event or reporting on it. And during that period, our team responded to more than 80 incidents, providing technical assistance, leading CCCs in the installation of flood fight materials, or working with locals to assess potential flood threats. This year, our team wasn't called out for post-fire recovery, which is great because we've been doing a lot of that over the many, last 5 years or so. However, we were asked to go out and do high water staking, and our team was out for 2 rounds of high water staking. After the January storm, we collected 111 points on 7 waterways. And after the snowmelt event in June, we collected 117 points on 6 waterways. And that resulting data will be used by DWR and some of our partners to better model the flows in those waterways for future events. We also continue to participate in coordination meetings with the Army Corps, the board, LMAs, and others, trying to make sure that we've got good communication and coordination at all those different levels. And we continuously update our levy logs, and we're always working to make sure that our levy logs and our levies have the best documentation on encroachments that we can make possible. And in 2024, we'll continue these kind of activities. And as always, we'll be on the lookout for ways that we can improve all the work that we're doing. And yeah. So that concludes my presentation today, or our presentation today. And I want to thank the board for this opportunity to present our results and to share some of the other activities that we're doing. So I'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have.
Just this, for some of these reporting periods, you indicate 2022 to 23, 2023 to 24. Is it calendar or is it some other cycle by perhaps seasons?
So LMA reporting, I think, is what you're probably getting at.
I think so.
So those are fiscal years, I think, is what we're looking at from the LMAs.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. And then this might be silly, but I'm going to do it. You're all going to say, don't do it. This is the picture of the building with something in front of it that looks like a very large ET. What is that? You didn't explain it.
Are you talking
What?
That's 28? Oh, okay. Levy.
Oh, that's levy view camera?
Yeah, that is the camera on top of our inspection vehicle.
Oh, it's on top of a vehicle. It's not something that's 2 stories high. It's on top of a vehicle. Thank you.
See, it's the Eye of Sauron on top
Oh,
of our
I see.
vehicle.
Oh, that's better. That's better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I
We'll
see.
put a cardboard box around it that gives it a little better
No,
homage to.
just there. Thank you for that. Sorry. Mr. Countryman, you probably have a more valid question.
On the high water staking,
Yeah.
I understood, or I've been
Oh.
told that drones are being used to
Mhm.
either supplement or possibly replace the high water staking. Are you aware of that, or?
Our Convey has been talking about how we could do that, and we're looking at, we actually have some drones, and we're looking at how we might be able to implement that ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic if we could do it, because instead of just one point every couple miles, you'd have the whole profile. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if that would replace or augment, because there's always still some ground truthing to those kinds of drone activities. They're very helpful because you can cover more miles than you can walking. Yeah. Any other questions or comments from board members? Member Johnson?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the report and the clarity of the presentation. And
Yeah.
in case it doesn't go without saying, the lack of questions for me isn't lack of interest or sense of importance. I'm really glad the state, our partners, is collecting this information and has it and able to use it, and it's presented the way that it is. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. My view is this is something that is not a one-off report to the board or one-off use. This is such important and valuable information for everything that comes up here or that we have questions. Just go to page whatever, section whatever, but and the graphics on that are super helpful. What was that?
The digital version.
Not surprising. That is the way it goes. Can't be as pretty. Do that. Okay, any questions from the audience? Any hands up on this? Okay, this is also, oh, the digital, is that the one that's online? Okay, so that's available on websites. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Thanks. Oh, I think we could just plow through this and then we could leave. That's my view. I got that right? Okay. Item 10, is that correct? We're on 10? Hey, always need your help, Mr. Countryman. 10A is a report on the reorganization of reclamation districts in Yolo and Sacramento counties. Mr. Zalazo,
yeah.
for once, I'm not going to tell you to speed up.
President Dolan, if it's possible, I'd like to request a lunch recess because one of my representatives is not here at the moment. I was out at a meeting, so he'll be back at 1:15 if that's amenable to the board.
And who would that be?
It's Dan Ramos. He's the representative for RD 537.
Oh, my goodness. So he thought we took a lunch break. Or he did. Okay, you want the whole thing later?
If that's possible after lunch. But
We
it's
weren't
up to you.
actually gonna
So.
go.
That's it.
We weren't actually going to go to lunch.
Okay. It should be back by 1:15.
Okay, we'll do all our other stuff and see what the time
But-
is. Can you, where is
Yeah.
where is he
Go
located?
through it. Okay.
Our council and our lead engineer says, let's just go for it. Cause we're not taking a lunch break.
Right.
I think you'll be fine. Now? We're going to go forward, Mr. Zalazo.
Sounds good.
Do what you can.
Okay, sounds good. So good afternoon, President Dolan and members of the board. My name is Mike Salazzo. I'm a senior engineer with the board's Flood System Improvement Branch.
Is there a
I
PowerPoint
am
for this?
pleased to present today's informational briefing about the reorganization and designation of new levy units for a few reclamation districts in Yolo and Sacramento counties. Since today's presentation is an informational briefing, there is no board action requested at this time. The purpose is to inform the board of the recent restructuring of the three systems shown up here and to answer any questions. First, RD 537, 785, and RD 827 are consolidated into an expanded RD 537 as one district. RD 900 will have 2 new levy units added, and RD 755 has been annexed and consolidated into RD 551. These boundaries have been approved by the associated local agency formation commissions under their boundary change authority, which allows the LAFCOs to regulate the dissolution and consolidation of special districts within their jurisdiction, such as reclamation districts. It's important to note that today's presentation is focusing on the new levy units that are resulting from that reorganization and new boundaries. And the board accepted these elements within the levy units that are within these RD reclamation districts as part of the Sacramento River Flood Control Project, and is entered into assurances with local agencies in performing and maintenance activities. Assurances have been provided by them through agreements with the board, and also California Water Code Section 8370 states that local districts will carry out the operation and maintenance of project works within their boundaries. So identifying current district boundaries is an important part of maintaining assurances, as well as by identifying levy units associated with those boundaries is important in maintaining the system as a whole. Before moving on, I'll take this moment to identify a few individuals representing these districts. So for RD 537, Dan Ramos is trustee, not present at the moment. RD 900, Blake Johnson, general manager in the back. And I believe online I have RD 551's district engineer, Mike Moncrief. So the vicinity map of the three systems is shown here. RD 537 is located between Sacramento and Woodland along the west levee of the Sacramento River, south of I-5 to the Sacramento bypass. RD 551 is located in the south around the town of Cortland and Highway 160 or River Road in Sacramento County between Sacramento River and I-5. RD 537 system will be presented first, followed by RD 900, and finally RD 551. Is there a way to advance the slide? All right. All right. Okay, so the prior boundaries of RD 537 system are shown in the figure on the left in gray with levy units 1 for each of those 3 reclamation districts shown on the right in green along the Sacramento River. Units 2 for each of them are shown on the west levee near the yellow bypass. And on the bottom, you have MA4 shown for reference along with the southern portion of RD 537 split by the Sacramento bypass. Now the approved boundaries from Yellow LAFCO are shown on the right, highlighted in gray, with the levy units, overlapping them, the boundaries fully encompassing that area. There's new levy units starting with Unit 1 corresponding to the prior Unit 1, the northern portion of RD 537. Unit 2 is now Unit 1 of 785 and kind of going around in a counterclockwise fashion to result in 5 new levy units for RD 537 as one system. RD 537 units 1 and 2 south of the bypass will be merged with the RD 900 system. And so the levy units presented here have been reviewed by both the California Department of Water Resources and Army Corps and are ready to be formally adopted, recognized by the board. Similarly with RD 900, the boundaries for the prior system are shown in the figure on the left in gray. Note that going from the south to north, the boundary sort of crosses over a portion of the city of West Sacramento. And then units 1 and 2 are shown on the right and left respectively. Approved boundaries for yellow RD 900 are shown in the gray on the figure on the right, with the boundary now fully encircling the city of Sacramento. State Maintenance Area 4 is shown still as boundaries, and Maintenance Authority do not change as a result of the approval from the Yellow LAFCO. So the levy units now 1 and 2 stay the same. The only change here being proposed is to add units 3 and 4 previously from the RD 537 into RD 900. That makes it more efficient to accomplish O&M, and since the units would be part of the same system. And then these units have been reviewed and approved by DWR and the Army Corps and are ready to be adopted by the board. And finally, RD 551, The prior boundaries are shown in the figure on the left with 551, the larger portion on the southern side, and 755 in the north. The change now is just to annex 755 into RD 551 and to change RD 551 Unit 1 to Unit 2, so switching the unit numbers. These levy units have been reviewed by DWR and should be approved by the Army Corps during the O&M manual update. And they should be ready to be approved by the board. So the next step expected in formalizing the new boundary maps is for the board staff to bring 3 resolutions for adoption at a future meeting. The resolutions would identify those new boundaries approved by the LAFCOs, as well as identifying and adopting those new units presented today, and noting that the boundary and maintenance authority for state maintenance area 4 remain unchanged and as a result of the LAFCO's actions. Adoption of the resolutions would enable the board and local districts to update the supplemental operation and maintenance manuals for the Sacramento River Flood Control Project shown on the slide. And it would also enable the maintenance to maintain an accurate description of the units within the state federal system. This concludes today's briefing. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have any questions on a specific issue relevant to a local district, I'm happy to bring up that representative to address that question. Otherwise, thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Zalaga, thank you. I just would like a clarification. Can you go back to the RD 551 boundary change twin maps? It's hard for me to understand where Unit 1 of the prior is, and then why it says Unit 1 on the proposed, but you said it's all going to be Unit 2.
Yeah, I should have been clear. So on the left, RD 551 Unit 1 is shown in green as part of that system. RD 755 is shown upstream in blue. That's Unit 1 of the prior system. And so two different RDs. They have the same unit number, but they're just different segments of the levee along the river.
Okay.
On the right hand side, RD 551 is annexing that the RD 755 unit and changing the name of the RD 755 Unit 1 to RD 551 Unit 1. And then RD 551 Unit 1 just switches to unit number 2.
Thank you for that step through. I may have figured it out if I sat there a little bit longer, that I wanted to ask you. Okay, good. And this is to come before the board anticipated when?
Hopefully, we're planning on February.
You've got some paperwork to prepare, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you think that the person from RD 900 would, I don't know how to say this without sounding bad, would add anything?
I believe that person would have the confidence in me in answering any questions.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, frankly, when the staff is assigned to present to the board, they better have good information on that, not say, here I am, give it to someone else. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, these maps are interesting. Member Grego.
Thank you. I just want to say, I've sat on LAFCO for 16 years. I know President Dolan, she's probably served her time on LAFCO as well. There's a lot of coordination that occurred here in order for this to happen. It's a process when you involve 2 counties such as Sacramento and Yolo County, moving boundaries. But what they did is the intent of LAFCO, and that's good governance. And so I just want to acknowledge that because like I said, it's been 16 years. I kind of see these projects and how they evolve. Doesn't happen overnight and doesn't happen without good communication and cooperation between the 2 LAFCOs coming together in order to make that happen. So That's all. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to make that comment.
There are two of us familiar with LACO, and it's a local entity of local governments that's very picky.
Okay.
I never was a meeting that went in earlier than 3 p.m. in my experience. Maybe you were more efficient. They never let me be the chair.
Well, through the chair, I was actually served as the president of the CalAvCo too.
Of
So I
course
saw
you
all the
did.
big stuff that came throughout the California. So I just want to mention that this is a big deal. I'm sure they'll probably get some kind of a award out of that for all that
Oh,
cooperation.
yeah, no, that's a lot of work to do something like that. And yeah, and kudos to the districts that work through changing jurisdiction. Sometimes that can be a barrier. Okay, any other questions? Or kudos to the former county supervisors? Okay. Audience? Nope. Hands up? Nope. Okay. You might want to call him, tell him he can take a leisurely lunch.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Bet. Oh, I was wondering where you went. You don't want to talk here, you want to talk there. All right, Mr. Leaf, our executive officer, is going to explain what we've seen, but now it's the formal presentation of the 2024 calendar.
Good afternoon, President Dolan. I'm Chris Leaf and members.
It looks like the
Chris
room's
Leaf, your executive
vacated.
officer. I'm going to give you a quick overview of our calendar for 2024.
Thank you all.
For your information. The anticipated dates and times for our public meetings are listed on our website under the Meetings tab. In general, board meetings will occur at 9 a.m. on the fourth Friday of each month. However, I note that in May, the board meeting will be on May 17th. In November, the meeting will be on November 15th. And in December, we will meet on Friday the 13th.
Well, it's either that or Christmas.
Board workshops are generally on the second Friday of each month, starting at 10 a.m. There was no workshop in January, and there is no planned workshop for May, September, or November. The workshop for December is scheduled for December 6th. Coordinating committee meetings are planned to occur every other month. All of these meetings will occur at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. The anticipated dates for 2024 this past week, January 23rd, March 19th, May 28th, July 23rd, September 24th, and November 26th. We also intend to have advisory committee meetings quarterly, but these are yet to be scheduled.
Was that a December or November at the end?
Excuse me?
Is it actually planned for December 24th?
No, I said September 24th and November 26th.
Oh, okay.
No December meeting or coordinating committee.
Okay, I'm just gonna speak into that microphone.
This microphone's a little tricky.
It's been a little wonky today, but not too bad. Okay. And then the advisory committee is gonna try to have some meetings. It's been a challenge
To be
because-
determined, dates for advisory.
Yeah, it is to be determined because the folks that do that have been extraordinarily busy with their own work.
Okay.
I think once we know how the plan update's going to evolve, there'll be a lot more need and hope for those meetings to occur. Okay, questions on our calendar?
I just wanted to say that I attended the coordinating committee with Chair this week, and it was just a really energizing group of people. Lot of good collaboration and discussion, and a bit more of an informal environment than this, and great presentations from the different regional flood management programs that just gave us a lot of excitement about the work that's happening out there. So it was just really good. Looking forward to more of those.
Thank you for that. I think we were all going to say that. It just, yes, the value of the coordinating committee is just evident. And some of that information will be brought here so we can highlight it more for our budget decision-making folks. Okay, any other comments or questions on our calendar? You've all put it on your, yeah, well, you're gonna be here in March. Okay. Your, your followers left, so I think that they like it. Thanks for hanging there. I didn't want to see empty chairs.
I know who my friends
Okay.
are.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 11. We received, thank you for putting all these together. I will admit that I don't read them all in depth prior to this meeting, but I do read them all in depth soon after that. That's all. So we have one that came by email last evening from our executive officer. We have an update on administration, operations branch, flood system improvement branch, environmental services and land management branch, which gets the award for the longest name, and the flood planning and programs branch. I just want to say thank you very much for not making it an acronym where you can try to speak it. Because I just, no, I'm not going to say it. That's the end. But thank you for putting them together. It's helpful. I think I'm speaking for you all for that. Yes, they're all nodding. They don't want to delay us anymore. Okay, item 12. Member Bosler had board comment and committee updates regarding a coordinating committee, and I ditto that. I thought it was well done. I know it was disappointing to our organizer, Kim Floyd, that there are more people still doing WebEx than being there. So I don't know how many times she said, we want to see you, particularly if you're like 20 minutes away as opposed to 2 hours. But we will always kind of offer that for various circumstances.
I think we had like 40 people online.
Yes.
So it was well attended, well, but there was not as many in the room, but we had really great conversation, and I think that's going to be a great forum.
They missed out that time that everybody then begins to talk to each other about things they want to do and things that they wish to coordinate and ideas to bring forward. So it's good that we're back with that. Okay. Committee updates? Any updates? Nope. I don't either, other than the executive officer told me 3 days ago that he'd had a sufficient amount of the board president for the month of January. But I may or may not leave you alone next week. Okay. And then we have the upcoming meetings. We have a workshop on the 9th. We'll be here. Board meeting on February 23rd, and we will be here. March 9th workshop is still, we cannot be here because SASOG is having their own session here. So the location will be determined. We can always do a site visit. Our staff are going to take a big deep breath because coordination of that and logistics is interesting, but it's always possible.
President Dolan, we are currently planning to have the March workshop at the Ag Center in Stockton.
And you're going to drive me?
Correct.
Yeah, more than just, yeah, we need to be in a group here. Go, oh, okay, we'll give some love to the San Joaquin area. And then board meeting, the last one they put on here is March 22nd, and we're back here. We certainly appreciate being here at SACOG, but we understand it's their spot. So if they're gonna have their own staff meeting, I guess they're gonna bump us. Okay, no closed session, therefore no report. Anything for the good of the order? Our meeting is adjourned. I predict